folks. Good evening. We're going to get started. Tonight is the last of two nights reserved to hear from the community about the superintendent's recommended fiscal year 2025 capital budget and the fiscal year 2025 through 30 capital improvements program. We will hear both in person as well as video testimonies, and tonight's hearing will be broadcast live on television and MCPS media. The board will conduct a CIP work session this Friday, November 10th. As always, board members are looking forward to hearing and considering your testimony. The order of speakers is listed on the agenda that is available on the board's website. Any written testimonies presented for tonight's hearing can be found on board docs. I will now get us started by having our board members introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Yang.
Good evening, Julie Yang. I'm so glad to see all of you tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Lynn Harris. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so glad to see so many students here.
Good evening, Rebecca Smondrowski, District 2. And for all of you Gaithersburg and Rockville citizens, I hope that you went out and voted today.
Good evening, Shebra Evans, District 4. So happy to be here with you all. Sorry I missed you yesterday. I was with my daughter. She's playing volleyball. So just good to see you all this evening and looking forward to what you have to say.
Ms. Wolf?
Good evening, Brenda Wolf, District 5. Glad to see everyone this evening. Sorry I couldn't join you. I'm still getting over something. Thank you.
Ms. Rivera Oven had a family emergency tonight, will not be joining us, and Mr. Saeed is watching online. So I will now start with the administration, starting with Dr. McKnight.
Thank you, Ms. Silvestri. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. We look forward to hearing all of your testimony this evening to better inform how we continue to work with you and our schools. So thank you so much for being here. And I am joined here by a number of staff members who will also be a part of listening tonight and doing follow-up to much of what we hear this evening. So looking forward to it.
Dr. Collins?
Good evening, Betty Collins, Acting Deputy Superintendent.
Good evening, Brian Hull, Chief Operating Officer.
Adrienne Karamihas, Director of Capital Planning and Real Estate.
Seth Adams, Associate Superintendent for Office of Facilities Management.
Good evening, Laverne Kimball, Acting Chief in the Office of School Support and Well-Being.
Mr. Stockton?
Good evening, glad to see all you here this evening. Brian Stockton, Chief of Staff.
Good evening, Peggy Pugh, Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening, Stephanie Sharon, Chief of Strategic Initiatives.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Cram. I'm a director in the Department of Communications.
Wonderful. Let's begin with our speakers who are here with us in person. When your name is called, please approach the podium and push the flat button below the microphone to turn it on and begin speaking. Please speak clearly and directly into the microphone, and please stay within your time allotment. Our first speaker is Aaron Uloya. Please come forward. Aaron from Fields Road Elementary School? No? Okay, while we wait, maybe. Eleni Brainham and Kim Malarski. Press, yeah, there you go. Press the button underneath the microphone. Yeah.
I think there's a presentation that's going to pop up. I'm not actually going to spend all that much time on the presentation because you can review it later, and I'd like to reserve the time for my daughter. But my name is Kim Minarski. I am the mom of fourth grade twins at Fields Road Elementary. I think the board has probably heard a little noise from our school. We're definitely kind of, as parents, stressed out about what we consider a real lack of resources for the increased needs, the increased amount of support on our school. So recognizing that the human body part is really our biggest need, I recognize that that's not why we're here today, and want to speak to where the capital budget can help us kind of take the steam off things a little bit. Bottom line, there is an extreme amount of fighting, aggression, over physicality at recess at the playground. Every day, parents are just getting bombarded with stories. Kids hate recess. They don't even want to go to recess. They're looking for excuses not to go. The list of injuries is pretty substantial. My daughter will be speaking to just a few of the things that she has seen. My son, who's a little too shy to speak, kind of gave me his list of what he sees. And some of it is just pure boredom. There isn't enough to do. You will, be able to look at the presentation, on your own. But what I did was went around to 3 neighboring schools in Gaithersburg and 2 in Clarksburg, and just took some pictures of the play space in those schools as well as Fields Road, and there were some consistent themes. Our kids can't even be on the playground every day. They alternate weeks. And so first grade's on the playground one week, and then the fourth grade is the next week, and then they're bored in between. They start playing basketball. They can't even play basketball because the basketball is up against a parking lot and a road. And then the balls start falling out, and the resource moderators are put in this impossible position of trying to protect their safety, but then having to restrict playing ball. And so the kids are just kind of left with balls that are flat, nothing to do. They've started getting mean and nasty with each other. They're fighting with each other on the equipment itself because it's very condensed, it's very tight. And so there's no room to actually play. They're all in line and waiting and pulling each other off, and there's injuries that way. So the theme is basically, we really need a refresh and an expansion of the playground. They need more space, longer, I'm going to let my daughter speak, longer space, fencing, and just an environment where you're not going to create safety hazards or frustration where kids are fighting. This is my daughter, Eleni.
Hi, my name is Eleni Brannon. I am a 4th grader at Fields Road Elementary School. I am here to ask for help for our school. There are many people hurting each other, both in class and at recess. They are fighting, hurting people. Last week, someone pushed me off the playground equipment. I hurt my ankle badly and went to the nurse's office. Last month, I got a concussion. A boy punched me here between the eyes. Then someone pushed me on the ground at recess. I banged my head. He then went to be alone and sat down in the tunnel. A girl crawled on top of me and banged my head back on the equipment a few times. She crawled on me and slapped my face.
Thank you.
There was no grown-ups to hear me scream or help. I missed school because these 3 things all happened on the same day. My best friend gets pulled off playground equipment every day. She has been hurt many times. Kids are always bored at recess, so they now start mean roasting games. They say mean things and bad things about each other, and then kids' feelings get really hurt. I see kids crying every day or trying hard not to cry. I am not happy at recess. I normally feel sad, scared, and stressed. I think most of my friends feel the same way. Thank you, and I hope you will be able to help us.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Farrah Hawks. Please come forward. Farrah Hawks, Eastern Middle School. Okay, Yanni Coley. Yanni, please come forward.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Yana Cooley, and I'm a junior at Thomas S. Wooten High School. As someone who is a part of the Wooten SGA, I prioritize advocating for the issues of our school. This is my second year testifying, and yet I have seen no improvements. Every day, I walk into a school falling apart in every way possible, yet everyone acts like it's normal. The truth is, this is normal. In fact, every Wooten student knows the feeling of walking around a school which has missing tiles, broken lights, and leaking ceilings. The changes that need to be made are far beyond what our building services can do at this point. I come here today to ask for you to please listen to the matter in question and truly understand our experience at Wooten. In order to do that, I want to put you in the day in the life of a Wooten student so you can fully understand what we go through. First off, it is important to recognize that we are one of the only schools left which was last built in the late 1960s. That was over 50 years ago. As I walk through the halls, I see pipes within the ceiling and walk past like everything is fine, because it's all I know. I walked into my SGA class the other day to see falling light fixtures from the ceiling. We shrugged and moved past because we are used to it. The issue which stands is that this shouldn't be all I know. I don't know what it would be like to see Wooten as not in shambles. I never realized the extent of how detrimental the school's environment is to my learning until last year when I visited Richard Montgomery for an MCR-GA meeting. The school was beyond exceptional. The auditorium had an extraordinary amount of space and could fit everyone, unlike ours at Wooten, which is filled with broken seats. This brings me to my next point. As a part of SGA, I have planned many pep rallies, and as our winter pep rally is slowly approaching, we have run into the issue yet again that there is no place inside which can hold even half the capacity of our school. Additionally, there are multiple safety hazards to our school. One, we are still not ADA compliant, making it extremely difficult for our special education students to be transported in and out of the school. It is unacceptable. It is beyond me that our school is still standing, but even more beyond me how you can send us to school every day knowing our safety is not being prioritized. It is shocking that we students are expected to learn in this kind of environment. I am not asking to have a fancy new school. I am asking for a necessary change to comply with basic student needs and safety. I try my best to ignore the exposed ceiling, a bucket in the middle of the hallway to collect the leaking water, the mold, disgusting bathrooms with no toilet paper, sinks with no running water, and the broken seats in the auditorium. But when it affects my everyday experience, I can no longer pretend these problems don't exist. I ask to please hold our renovation date as it is, or even move it up, as this is an urgent matter left in your hands. It is time to stop pushing our school aside. It is time to recognize and take action in order to help us succeed. Please take into consideration all the reasons above and give your attention and effort to make Wooten a priority. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ashi Stanislaus.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Ashi Stanislaus, and I am a junior at Wooten High School and the Wooten SGA Secretary. I am here again to advocate for the needs of Wooten students. Today, I am here to talk about the issues I face at school as a student and as an athlete. As you have heard from many Wooten students, the issues in the bathrooms are absolutely unacceptable. I testified just last month about multiple bathroom issues, and in the span of a month, I've experienced so much more. I am on the Palms team, and the only bathroom available during practice is the one in the basement. The other week, I went to the bathroom to change, and as I walked in, I was immediately hit with a disgusting odor, forcing me to hold my breath. I looked down at the floor as I was about to change, and I noticed the multiple uneven tiles filled with some kind of dirt that I can't even describe. I then went to wash my hands, and the sink squirted water all over me. These are problems I experience every single day. These are the conditions that students have been forced to accept. We are left doubtful that any of this will change. In the same area of the bathroom is the dance studio that Palms practices in every day. The Palms team is made up of 18 girls, and you would think there was enough room for all of us. But unfortunately, the dance studio is too small. The room is a closed-in, tight space with not enough room for all of us to practice. Because of this problem, we are forced to practice in the cafeteria, with food all over the floor and no mirrors for us to dance in. My team deserves a proper place to practice in. I thank all of you for your willingness to listen to what we have to say and understand the problems we are facing. I acknowledge that you are all trying your best to create the environment a student deserves. But Wooten should have been renovated a long time ago. We have been pushed back so many times that it feels like the conditions we go to school in are normal. Many students feel as if the problems we face are not bad enough for you to do anything about it. Please don't make future Wooten students feel like this. I am pleading with you. Do not move our renovation date past 2029. Please keep the completion date set. I truly hope future Wooten classes will be proud of their school and enjoy the conditions they learn in. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emma Yuan. Oh, one more time. There you go.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. We're so happy that we get the opportunity to speak about our school tonight. My name is Emma Yuan, and I'm a junior at Wooten High School. Today, I'm here to advocate for the necessary funding of our school building infrastructure in the capital improvement project budget. So there are many programs at Wooten. The computer program at Wooten is known throughout the county and has a really good reputation. But in contrast, our TV studio program is rarely even regarded. One of the major causes of this is that the program itself is underfunded. The cameras and equipment are analog, which usually have a resolution of 6 to 20 times less than digital equipment. In simple terms, the quality of videos and announcements that come out of the work of students using this equipment is horrible. In turn, this might be one of the reasons why our once flourishing TV studio program has dwindled down to just one period of 6 students. We cannot blame students for this. Students who may be interested in television production don't see any appeal in learning to use outdated technology in a cramped and barren TV studio. Learning with antiquated equipment puts these students at a major disadvantage with their peers and even coworkers who have gotten practice using up-to-date technology. This is not equitable in the slightest. Another underfunded program is the theater program. The infrastructure makes it harder to get items to function. And to add on, the budget is so low to the point where it could be described as non-existent. This combination of issues forces teachers to think about replacing old materials and old equipment when this should not be their biggest concern. This takes time away from them as they prepare for the next lesson or play. For example, there isn't enough electricity in our auditorium to use safe power tools. So there's a $5,000 saw meant for creating theater props that cannot even be used because of the lack of electricity. It's now simply sitting in the back of the theater. These are just some of the struggles that make it more difficult for students at Wooten to learn and engage in theater when compared to other students in the county. Even worse, the inaccessibility of the auditorium excludes whole groups of students. Neither the booth nor the pit can be reached for students on wheelchairs. How can students with disabilities be able to learn if they cannot even be there firsthand? I sincerely hope that Wooten can receive these internal and external building improvements so that incoming students are able to have access to programs that are not limited by infrastructure and outdated equipment. If granted building improvements, students will be able to go down the career path that they desire and prepare for a future profession. Today, I urge you to allocate and prioritize funding in the capital improvement project budget to renovate and improve Wooten High School. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Balin. It's on. It's on.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Alex Bion, and I'm a junior at Wooten High School and a member of SGA. I want to shed light on the infractional issue at Wooten that has fallen below MCPS standards. I'm here tonight to address and emphasize the importance of ensuring that my school complies with the Americans with Disabilities Act. I believe that creating an inclusive and accessible learning environment is not just a legal obligation, but a moral obligation. One of the ADA's fundamental principles is ensuring equal access to public spaces, including schools. By making our schools ADA compliant, we are not only adhering to the law, but also fostering a more inclusive learning environment. A few months ago, I was temporarily disabled and had to use a wheelchair. Despite my optimism about everything staying normal, I had a very hard time navigating Wooten successfully. Many hallways and entrances were unstable, and for me, because of the sheer number of students combined with the limited amount of space. To get from floor to floor, I had to use elevators which were shoddy at best. Not only were they unreliable, but I often missed class time because of how far I had to go to get to these elevators, which we only had access to 2 in the whole building. This means that many essential access points such as entrances, stairwells, and parking spaces fall outside our ADA guidelines. Ensuring ADA compliance in our schools reflects our commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion. It is an investment in the future, both for students and our society. I ask that you don't postpone Wooten's renovations any more than they already have. While the Wooten community waits for the renovation, nearly 5 years away, I urge you to prioritize ADA compliance in our school facilities and programs, thus demonstrating our dedication to providing an accessible education for all. For me, being in a wheelchair was only a short period of time, but for others, this is an everyday battle. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Our next speaker is Chloe Ayisi Ito. Your microphone's on. You can begin.
Oh, okay. Good evening, members of the Montgomery County Board of Education and Dr. McKnight. I'm Chloe Ayisi Ito, a sophomore at Thomas S. Wooten High School. At the age of 13, I fell in love with fashion, in contrast to the majority of my peers who gravitated towards mathematics, biology, or writing. You would find me innovating new clothing designs. This led me to start my own clothing brand, Kolana. This year, I created a 7-look spring-summer collection, showcased to an audience over 1,000 people at a Montgomery County fashion show. Designing a 13-piece collection, which took over 400 hours, wouldn't have been achievable without the luxury of working in class with 5 students collaborating with me to assist in production. Overall, this experience created a strong learning environment that encouraged other students to explore their interests as well. Furthermore, fashion is a way to understand diverse cultures, showcasing how clothing and style can reflect history, values, and traditions from around the world. Yet, none of these achievements would have been within my reach were it not for the fashion courses offered by my school. The course provided me with the opportunity to perfect my skills in modeling, intricate mock-ups, and hosting model rehearsals. However, the situation for Wooten students enrolled in fashion courses is far from ideal. It is disheartening to note that MCPS offers only a select few high schools the privilege of embracing the world of fashion. But as one of these schools, we find ourselves cramped within the confines of a shared, compact classroom, a space we equally share at different periods with computer science, but still inadequate in terms of size, equipment, and educational resources. Learning becomes a challenge when space is limited for a room of 30 students who strive to create their creative potential. Furthermore, students are ill-equipped to learn effectively when they are crowded and struggle to gain access to unfamiliar tools. The discomfort and inconvenience in learning in such an environment cannot be overstated. This not only impedes our learning, but also cramps our sewing area, with only 2 sewing machines available for every 4-foot table. As a fashion designer, I find myself confined to a space that is merely a third of the entire classroom. MCPS can change how art and fashion are taught at Wooten, giving students a strong base for success, whether they pursue art careers or not. In light of this, MCPS, I ask you, within the blueprint for renovation, you allocate a designated space for a fashion class around other art classes. Furthermore, don't let Thomas S. Wooten renovation be put back anymore. Many students have come through the halls of the schools, hoping they were going to see the school rebuilt and never did. 2029 is a set year for Wooten's redevelopments. Let's strive to not push this back. Students should be granted the necessary space to fully unleash their creative potential. As an aspiring fashion designer, it is crucial that MCPS provides me and other students with the education necessary for us to prosper in our future career paths. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christian Smithson. Your microphone's on. You can begin.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight.
My name is Christian Smithson, and I'm a junior at Thomas S. Wooten High School. I am a proud member of our prestigious music department. I'm here to speak to you today about the meager condition of our band and orchestra choir rooms. For many years now, Wooten has been among the greatest high schools for musical achievement, winning many statewide competitions across band, orchestra, and choir. And with this success, one would think that our musical facilities must be of the highest quality. But as a member of both the Wooten marching and concert bands for the past 3 years, I've been to numerous counties across the state, and I've seen the spaces in which these other programs occupy. Imagine what it feels like to spend an entire day in one of these marvelous facilities and then returning home to our school's antiquated counterparts. It's embarrassing. It seems as though other counties give multiple of their schools' band programs the facilities they need to succeed. So it puzzles me that MCPS, despite being the largest school system in Maryland, cannot do the same for a single school that has waited years, all while consistently making MCPS look better as a whole. Sadly, we've been ignored repeatedly over the years, and it has even begun to affect our students as well. A friend of mine was recently struck with illness, and he was forced to use a wheelchair for some time. But because of our school's lack of ADA compliance in our band and choir rooms, he couldn't even play the instrument that he loves, and he missed out on weeks of practice. How would you like it if you couldn't do something that you were passionate about simply because of a problem that you would repeatedly try to resolve, but no one would listen to you? That is the feeling of helplessness and frustration that we feel every time you deny us the support we ask for. What have we done to deserve such neglect? We've produced nationally ranked results. We've remained patient for over 50 years. What more must we do for you to listen to our pleas? Our lovely band and choir directors, who have been at least half the reason for Wooten's outstanding achievement, have offices the size of broom closets. I'm serious. It's preposterous. We don't even have the room to store our instruments. They are a danger to the instruments are a danger to themselves and the students that play them. The room that they're stored in has ceilings that were once white that are now brown with age. It is for these reasons that I beg you not to let this dilemma last any longer. We've been quiet, calmly standing by after every year of rejection, but that time is over. In the words of President John F. Kennedy, ask not what Wooten can do for MCPS, as we've done it. Instead, ask what MCPS can do for Wooten. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Maddie Matthew. Please come forward.
Do I have to? Okay, it's on. Okay. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Maddie Matthew. I'm a junior at Thomas Wooten High School and a leader within our school's SGA. I stand before you to speak about the poor infrastructure found in Wooten's basement level. With over 1,800 hardworking students, many would think that Wooten would be provided with sufficient and up-to-date school building. Sadly, this isn't the case. Students' needs in our building environment are not being met and are greatly affected by the faulty state of our building. The basement level has numerous issues with building structure, yet the main issues that I need to discuss are the auxiliary gym and the locker rooms. As an athlete, we need our space to change before practices or games. It's very important that this space is clean and safe. Despite this fact, Wooten's locker rooms don't meet this requirement. Many of the tiles on the floor are uneven and sticking up with mold growing underneath them. Not only is this unsanitary, the uprooted tiles are hazards for students and athletes because they can cause them to trip and get injured. Last year, I would go to the locker room every day before gym class, and I couldn't safely lock my belongings in the locker rooms due to the rust. The rust on the lockers made the edges sharp enough to cut me. This has not changed since last year and remains dangerous because people are getting injured from the sharp edges. Another problem is the benches found in each of the aisle of the locker room. Many students avoid using them because they're unstable and have metal pieces sticking from them. It's disappointing that students can't utilize the resources needed for them in the locker rooms because they are hazardous. A student should have to be wary about using the locker rooms or stepping inside the locker room because they are worried about getting hurt. Another major issue with Wooten's basement level is the auxiliary gym. As a basketball player, we use the aux gym often, so practicing there can be a huge struggle for us. I remember last year, my team and I stepped into the gym and it was extremely hot and humid. We thought it was just a fluke, but we were wrong. Our practices would have stopped multiple times for people to cool off because of inadequate air conditioning. Many of my teammates would get overheated easily and feel dizzy from all the extra heat being added to them. I
ask you, how can athletes perform at their best when there are conditions that are greatly affecting their physical state? The gym classes at Wooten who use the aux gym face this issue as well. Many students will step out of the aux gym, missing their gym class in order to cool down. Another problem with the aux gym is that almost all the hoops are tilted, uneven, or not leveled straight. This makes practices for basketball hard because we aren't able to train to the best of our ability. It's hard to see other schools get renovated while we continue to suffer infrastructural issues. How is it fair to students who attend Wooten? Wooten students deserve renovation sooner than 2029. However, I understand that budgetary issues exist. For now, smaller fixes like getting new hoops and a better AC unit for the auxiliary gym and removing the benches, lockers, and replacing it with better and safer ones. However, I ask in the meantime, you provide our building services team with support and do not forget the issues we experience at Wooten. I urge you, Dr. McKnight, and the Board of Education members to consider what I've addressed and take timely action. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sarin Pingal.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education and Dr. McKnight. My name is Sarin Pingal, and I'm a junior at Thomas Wooten High School and a member of Wooten SGA. I'm here today to talk about Wooten's bathrooms and water fountains. Working bathrooms and water fountains are a necessity in schools for both students and teachers alike. There have been many times when I go to the bathroom and the doors are locked, so I have to walk around the school trying to find a bathroom that's open. We have never gotten a reason as to why the bathrooms are locked either. On top of that, some sinks in the bathrooms sometimes don't have much water coming out. No matter how much you turn the knob, only a small stream of water comes out, or sometimes no water at all. This gets very frustrating when you're in a hurry to get back to class, but you have to wait minutes to wash your hands properly. The water fountains in our school aren't in good working condition either. One time when I was in class and needed water, I walked to the closest water fountain only to find that it had been removed the previous year. Because of this, I had to walk across the school to find the next closest water fountain, but that one wasn't working. I finally found a working water fountain very far from my class on the third try, but I wasted a lot of important class time trying to find it. Every day, many students waste a lot of valuable learning time to find a functional bathroom or water fountain to use, even though these are both necessities for a school and should not be so difficult to find. Every day I walk in hoping I can come to a school that has good working bathrooms and water fountains, and yet every day I'm disappointed. In light of these issues, I ask that you hold our renovation day or move it sooner. I understand that there are budgetary constraints. Therefore, I ask in the meantime to fix these issues. Students should be notified as to why a bathroom is locked, as well as informed of which ones are locked or aren't working, so they don't need to waste time searching the whole building. Many of our water fountains also need to be fixed. MCPS could do a monthly or quarterly check on all school bathrooms and water fountains to ensure they are working and easily accessible to all students throughout the school. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew Chen.
Good evening, Dr. McKnight and the Board of Education members. I'm Andrew Chen, a senior at Thomas S. Wooten High School and the drum major of the Wooten Marching Band. Today, I'm here to talk about the simple request to ensure that the lights in the upper parking lot, which also doubles as our marching band practice field, are consistently on, with enough lighting to make the area feel safe. This is a pure safety issue. With a band of 64 members, everyone would highly benefit if the parking lot lights were 100% operational for us and the groups who use the baseball field. For the past years, our request for this simple fix has not been honored. While there are many other requests throughout Wooten's music department, such a simple fix not only benefits marching band members, but also teachers and other staff who work at Wooten. As a member and leader of the marching band, the upper practice lot is where everything comes together from the start to the end of the season. It is also a place where everyone should feel safe while making music. Most of our practices are in the evenings. Most of our competitions are on turf fields with appropriate lighting, but we are only given space on a parking lot to practice. We should, at a minimum, be able to practice with lights on, as students carry thousands of dollars worth of instruments and guard members are tossing equipment in the air and cannot see to catch it when it is so dark. Safety is the #1 priority of our marching band. However, in this past season, we have experienced injuries to our members and damage to our instruments because of the darkness that we have to practice in. During the evenings, band members cannot see the grates and uneven dips in the ground, which introduces the risk of accidentally getting hurt. We compete in competitions where missing one person affects the whole band. Also, since the Wooten Music Department does not receive sufficient funding, we cannot afford to repair damaged instruments. Unfortunately, these are high risks for practicing in the dark upper parking lot. To help Wooten's marching band succeed by preventing future injuries, the Wooten Capital Improvement Project cannot be delayed. In the meantime, we need funds to repair many essential parts of our school. One way to solve our practice field issue, which is also the upper parking lot, is to repair all the lights that either do not work or turn on and off randomly. Completing these minor repairs will send a message to us that Wooten High School and its students are just as important to the MCPS school system leaders as are all the other students who have new schools or schools that have been renovated within the last 10 years. With these lighting repairs, the upper parking lot will be a much safer space for our rehearsals and events on that side of the building. So I urge you, Dr. McKnight and the members of the Board of Education, to consider supporting us with your desperately needed action. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nea Cho.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Nea Cho, and I am a student athlete at Wooten High School, testifying on behalf of our athletic department. Just a little background about me before we get started. I play volleyball and basketball for Wooten, and I also play club soccer outside of school. I've been playing sports since I could walk, and I consider athletics to be one of the most important aspects of my life. The majority of our student body have participated in a sport for at least a season, so it's safe to say that a lot of our students value sports similar to the way that I do. As a junior this year, I've spent 3 years of my time at Wooten playing a sport, and I've had plenty of opportunities to see firsthand the constraints our infrastructure has had on our athletic programs. In particular, there is no shared team room for athletes and coaches to review film during practice. Our volleyball team and many alike have had to compromise by setting up videos to watch individually online. This is difficult to navigate around when we already have restricted time at home with lengthy practices and a heavy course load. This is also not mindful to those who have unreliable or lack of internet access at home. I'd also like to mention the conditions of our gym, where 8 different sports teams hold practices and games year-round, and just to allow everyone to properly envision the conditions of our gym, every year we volunteer our gym to host events like the Volleyball County Championship. And every year we're rejected because our gym has things like 2 different shades of blue paint on our walls, holes in our bleachers, poor lighting, and air conditioning and heat that result in unbearable temperatures. So much so that my volleyball team has resorted to wearing winter coats and sweatpants for warm-ups, and my teammates on basketball have to strip down to just our sleeveless mesh practice jerseys in order to play in the heat. Student athletes at Wooten, like myself, are incredibly tired of having to adapt to less than ideal facility conditions in order to enjoy what is sometimes our only break from stress. We would be ever so grateful to have a gym that is presentable and the necessary resources so we can shift our focus away from the infrastructure of our environment and towards the success of our athletes. As my classmates and peers speak today, I would like to ask the moms, dads, and guardians in this room to consider what standards they would hold their children's educational facility to and listen accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina Kian.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Dr. McKnight. My name is Christina Kian, and I am a senior at Thomas S. Wooten High School. To start off, I have to admit something. I procrastinated taking my art credit for 4 years. Being a geek in science and business, I never thought that art could ever be important to me. But this year, other than for the sake of fulfilling my art credit, I decided to try something new and unconventional. And so, I I enrolled in fashion illustration. Surprised? So was I. Yet walking into class, I was immediately fascinated by the captivating visual displays like nature collages, hand-stitched sweaters, vests, and more. Always being logical and analytical, I was convinced that I simply lacked the artistic ability to make anything close to those masterpieces. Yet to my surprise, after weeks of practice and mentorship from my peers, I discovered my creative side, something that was hidden for my entire life. Yet there's a problem. There's a risk that eventually there may not even be a designated space for fashion. After all, out of the 30 high schools in MCPS, only a small handful of them offer fashion as a course. We're already limited with space, as we're forced to share a small classroom with computer science this year. Renovating our facility should not be pushed back any longer, and we need to ensure that fashion is provided with a classroom in an art hallway. We often fail to realize that fashion is indeed a career option for many students. Take, for instance, former Wooten student Joshua Yuan, who was accepted to the prestigious Fashion Institute of Technology last year because of the art portfolios he created at Wooten. Yet fashion extends beyond design. In my case, it intersects with business, offering career prospects in retail buying, managing, and merchandising. Not only is fashion relevant in careers, but it also teaches us interpersonal skills for success in various environments. Through fashion, students collaborate, learn how to become more open-minded, and practice self-expression, all of which help us creatively showcase our true identities, ideas, and perspectives. MCPS has the power to revolutionize the education of fashion and provide students with a baseline for future success, regardless of whether they go on to pursue fashion in the future. I was skeptical about art adding value to my life, but my experiences from taking the class proved me wrong. And I would never have been able to realize this had fashion not been offered at my school. Members of the Board of Education and Dr. McKnight, it is imperative that we do not push back the renovation of our building any longer, and that we make every effort to preserve fashion illustration and production at Wooten High School and in schools all throughout the county. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next is a video testimony from Jilly N Abotsi.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Jillian N Abotsi, and I'm a sophomore at Wooten High School. I'm a member of the Wooten SGA and vice president of our school's Best Buddies program. As a result, I work very closely with Wooten's special education department, students, and staff. Today, I'm here to advocate on behalf of the students who cannot do so themselves. Around our school, there are various safety hazards for both students with and without disabilities. 30 years ago, a law was enacted stating, if there are structural barriers that interfere with participation for people with disabilities, the public entity must take steps to ensure that they can access services and participate in programs. Although our school predates the law and is exempt in certain cases, there is no excuse in this day and age to have a public building that is not accessible for people with disabilities. Let me walk you through the different day-to-day challenges students with disabilities and/or in the special education program face at Wooten High School due to our lack of ADA compliance. Starting at the bus area where students with disabilities will arrive and depart, the uneven sidewalk pavement and steep hills make it extremely difficult to navigate around to safely get inside of the building. The only way to get to the special education classrooms is by going around the auditorium, down a steep ramp, and through the art hallway. As you walk into the front of the school, it is very challenging for students and teachers to pry open the extremely old and heavy doors, especially in a wheelchair. Not only is this concerning, but the handicap door buttons are commonly broken around the school. However, one of my biggest concerns is the safety of these students during an emergency such as a fire or emergency evacuation. Due to the uneven pavement, heavy doors, and quality of the roads, students cannot get a safe distance away from the school in the case of a fire. This frightens me, especially because these students are my friends, and it is crucial to me that each individual feels and is safe at Wooten High School. After speaking with multiple Wooten High School autism teachers, they explained how difficult it is to get students in wheelchairs around the school, especially students with heavier weights. Both teachers and students must adapt and adjust to the unfair environment. But wouldn't it make more sense for the school to adapt to every person entering the building, especially students? I understand that this topic is brought up often. Still, I urge you to consider taking a closer look at the deficiencies in Wooten's building regarding ADA compliance and acknowledge the concern of the passionate students at Wooten High School. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope this video helped you have a better understanding of the issues of this topic at Wooten. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next speaker is also a video.
Hello, my name is Alison Andreev, and I'm a freshman at Thomas S. Wooten High School. I unfortunately could not make it to the meeting in person, so I'm here online to discuss the implementation of composting programs in schools around the county. According to Feeding America, the country produces 119 billion pounds of food waste annually, 248 million of those compostable scraps being produced by Montgomery County alone. I have seen students throw away vegetables and fruits, some being untouched meals, in the trash can. This is all being sent to landfills and wasted, and the process of putting these products in landfills releases harmful chemicals and is really bad for the environment overall. I'm a member of Compostology, and Compostology works statewide to implement compost programs at schools, several of them being in Montgomery County. If the Board of Education could work directly with Compostology, we could improve local agriculture while helping local farmers and the economy, while also supporting county-wide composting companies. This can allow for more education to students about food waste, the importance of composting, telling them why we should compost, while also raising awareness about the topic. These food scraps may even be used to improve or start a school garden, and moreover, composting will reduce the emissions of CO2 and methane, which heavily contributes to climate change. In addition, several of these composting programs have been implemented at MCPS schools already, such as Hoover Middle School, Wooten High School, and Wayside Elementary School, to name a few, and the program has previously raised awareness in the county. The total price of services and product from the composting program implemented by Compostology in Hoover Middle School is $2,011 a year, but with the food waste recovery program, the yearly price can be reduced and be priced at about $1,439 to $1,885. Funding this program at all 210 schools in the county would cost only approximately 1/10,000th of the BOE's total $3.7 billion budget for the 2024-2025 school year. This cost can be reduced even more after applying to numerous grants linked below my testimony, fundraising, and having schools work directly with their PTA to get funding. Besides, so far, Compostology implemented programs have received positive reviews from building services, students, and faculty, and all are excited to learn about composting. Overall, implementing these composting services would be extremely beneficial to the county and takes a relatively short time to install in schools while also being easy to do, and allows high school managed organizations to work directly with the Board of Education, and we could do so much more if we can work with and raise awareness for the BOE. Factoring in the cost of these programs in the countywide budget, working directly with or forming a partnership with local composting companies through the Board of Education would be a tremendous help to Compostology and the local community. Our goal is to implement these composting programs all over MCPS by partnering with the Board of Education. Now, let's get started. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to pause for board comments and questions, but I did want to start with Mr. Adams. If you could just help the public understand what you do with the testimony that you hear tonight. We heard from 17 different students with many different issues, so kudos to Wooten High School students for really turning out here tonight. But rather than each board member bringing up every different item that has been brought up tonight, if you could share with us what you do with this feedback and how you will follow up with the students that have brought it up to us.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to address some of the challenges. So much of what we heard, there's a combination of maintenance, and then there's obviously a combination of capital improvement work that we're focused on. The maintenance work, that some of the elements that are addressed, we definitely, if it's not in our work order system, we will put it in our work order system and address it with staff. There was elements around building services. I know we've been very engaged with building service teams over there. Around things around replenishing bathroom stocks, managing different elements around the site, elements around just the different accessible routes on site. I know we spent many site visits on site working with staff just around how to navigate the building, what's the best possible route, working with our transportation on picking students up and dropping off based on special ed buses and gen ed buses. But from a capital improvement standpoint, I just want to address that. That's something that we went out and had one meeting to start the initial phase of Wooten. The first evaluation was really to look at it from a site, from an ADA perspective. One thing I would just say is from the assessment standpoint, we're hearing a lot of testimony around the age and the condition, but just purely from the condition standpoint, and this is from a state-rated evaluation as well as ours. There are other schools with similar aging infrastructure challenges, but why Wooten is one of the schools that is a high priority for us is through the ADA work. So we started that work to really evaluate it from a site perspective, from an interior conditions. We heard things around the auditorium. We're focused on how to make the auditorium more accessible, not only from spectators, but also for performers. So we had that first meeting, but what we heard loud and clear was that we needed to focus on other elements that were also high impact for students. I know the team and the administration has been working with SGA. I believe that there's been requests just to identify the high value, high impact elements around the building, things around restrooms, things around different program aspects. So the plan is to come back in the coming, probably in the 1st of December, to really go through not only the ADA work that's happened from a consultant standpoint, but really then start to dive into some of the high impact projects. I know we're planning painting type of projects. We have different HVAC projects that are in progress, restroom renovation type of work. So in the coming months, we're going to continue those conversations and then really start to put the plans together for the work to happen the following summer.
And
this coming summer.
How will students know of the progress?
Well, so students are going to be invited to those meetings. So we're obviously going to set those up for a variety of different timings. So like during the day, in the evenings, virtual options, so that we can get feedback. We hire consultants, the architectural firms that are involved in this. So their job is to really walk through design options to get feedback based on different architectural styles, different approaches to the work. Some of the ADA work is probably a bit more straightforward, right? That's engineering work that the consultants have come up with different solutions around how to solve that. We obviously may get into some interior space changes. I know where several of the special education classrooms are located may not be as ideal as if we were to shift locations within the building, but obviously just shifting is not as simple. So what are the improvements associated with that work? So we'll walk through that process. There'll be a variety of student, community, parent, staff meetings where we can get a variety of impact or feedback pieces so that we can have high impact work done.
Thank you. I will now turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Ms. Yang, please turn your light on if you have any comments or questions.
Just to thank you everyone for your testimony. It's always wonderful to see our students come out and share with us what happened in your building. Just want to follow up a clarify question with Mr. Adams. You mentioned that there will be work orders, that existing all work orders. Tonight we heard about broken lights, missing tiles, or leaking ceilings, or broken auditorium seats, or outside parking lot lights that are not working. Are we taking notes? Is there a way to make sure these items are on the existing work order? If they're not on, how do we add them on to the work orders?
Yeah, so those are all things that we'll take back to our maintenance teams that are part of facilities. If there's work orders there, we'll communicate what the status is with the school. We'll also provide the board feedback based on this testimony in the coming days, just to give an idea of where we are, what are some of the outstanding items, what's the timeline around repair. Some things, we obviously work very closely with building services. The goal is that building services enters these work orders. And then obviously we have, our maintenance teams that go out and provide the feedback. Some fixes happen pretty quick, and then some are longer term. I know that the leak, there's clear story at the building that, our roofers have been out. We've had contractors out, working on flashing and other aspects to make sure that we can address the leaks. Some of that, doesn't necessarily get resolved immediately, but we continue to come back and work to resolve that. So the goal is to come back with a list of all the things that have been discussed here, provide that to the school administration so that can be reported out to the school, but we'll also provide the Board of Ed with a report sharing updates around our maintenance work order history at Wooten.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Harris?
Yeah, thank you. And I had the opportunity to be a student at Wooten for a day a couple weeks ago. I went to class all day, and it's nice to see so many of you again. Thank you for being here tonight. I do have a question about Fields Road. So I, just looking in our CIP book, it's not an overcapacity school. It's on a 10-acre site, which is average or above average for an elementary school in Montgomery County. Why is the play area so compressed and such that they have to alternate weeks for classes, grades to use it? And maybe, I don't expect you to know all the answers right now, but I really would like to understand why a non-overcapacity elementary school on a bigger than average site size is having those kinds of issues.
So that's something that we will review, but I do believe Fields Road still, even though it's not technically showing as overcapacity, has portable classrooms. A lot of times portable classrooms are located on the play space, which constricts. So certainly we'll go out and do an assessment to see, if we can expand, hard surface play area. I would say that just because they don't necessarily show as overcapacity, there are reasons to have relocatable classrooms. I think we talked about that a little bit at the first work session. But we'll do an evaluation to see if we can improve the play conditions at the school. But we'll also work with school administration just on making sure that it's organized in a way that's most conducive to student safety. That can be done obviously through facility work, but it can also be done through operational improvements. So that's work that we'll continue to dive into and obviously come back to the board with some updates on.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Wolf? No comments? Okay. I just wanted to thank the students once again, and yes, we want to keep the school on schedule, and I know that you already know that after, this is the superintendent's recommendation, then it goes to the county executive, then it goes to county council for final budgetary approval. So you all turn out all along the way, and I appreciate that, and we'll need you to turn out once again in every step of that process. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Okay, we'll continue with our next speaker. If we could have Jason Woodward, I think it's a video testimony.
The Burning Tree Day begins with our amazing building services team flushing our water pipes every morning for at least 30 minutes.
Level, which has a lot of stairs. Sometimes our friends have to go on a wheelchair.
Good evening, President Silvestri, board members, staff, and Superintendent McKnight. My name is Jason Woodward, and I'm speaking tonight regarding the design and infrastructure of the aging Burning Tree Elementary in light of our growing and changing student population. Burning Tree is the most demographically diverse school in the Whitman cluster, economically, culturally, and by learning ability. Burning Tree is one of only 13 learning centers within our county. However, we are currently in the worst shape of all MCPS schools with the learning center in relation to enrollment versus capacity. Currently, we have nearly 500 enrolled students against a capacity of 388. The demographic trends provided by MCPS detail that our 130% utilization rate and overcapacity will only worsen in the next few years. In fact, within the next few months, our enrollment will further increase due to the expected influx of international students. As such, an increase in the overall Burning Tree student population in both the traditional and learning center environments requires a proportional increase in our staffing and classroom needs. We are appreciative of the 3 portable classrooms that were recently replaced. However, our 4th portable was removed and further impacts our capacity. Due to our lack of space, the next room that will need to be converted will be our music room, and beyond that, the art room. And as it is, students who need occupational therapy, physical therapy, or speech have their care provided in the same hallway alongside teachers operating temporary classrooms. In addition to the issues noted in the video, the top concerns at Burning Tree is the roughly 50 barriers to accessibility for ADA compliance. We have been told that addressing one barrier would require addressing all barriers. And as someone who works in the construction industry, I understand firsthand the competing priorities to address critical deficiencies and code violations in relation to limited resources. However, the implication sometimes becomes that it's better to do nothing than to improve the welfare and safety for our staff and students. Our building's split-level structure with a lack of chairlifts and handicapped accessible bathrooms has required us to turn away some students from our learning center and presents an ongoing challenge for those with disabilities. I've watched my own child with mobility and cognitive issues fall both up and down the stairs at Burning Tree to access his non-ADA compliant classroom. But what about our other students and faculty members who are wheelchair-bound or with ongoing medical concerns? The fact is, our last revitalization occurred more than 30 years ago in 1991, and by my count, Burning Tree Elementary hits the 3 highest capital improvement priorities as outlined by MCPS: compliance, capital maintenance, and capacity. And as the parent of a child who has been in the Burning Tree Learning Center for 6 years, we made a home in this county for the excellent services available. And I'm hopeful you recognize the importance of this diverse school and the integration of our learning center to our cluster and the general student population. There have been previous statements that it may be more conducive to move the learning center, which is 20% of our student population, to another school rather than to address the current issues at Burning Tree. Such commentary completely misses our point. Improvements are needed at Burning Tree for all of our students. And there is a clear community need for the Learning Center to remain at Burning Tree and to serve our growing, diverse student population, but in an updated and vibrant capacity. And as we have watched the capital improvement projects that are approved at other very deserving schools, our question still remains: when is it time for Burning Tree? Thank you very much.
Our next speakers are Nea Cho and Zohar Zing. One more time. There you go.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. McKnight. My name is Nea Cho.
And my name is Zohar Zing.
And we serve as the co-presidents of the Wooten Student Government Association. To start, we want to thank you for your previous comments acknowledging our infrastructure issues, and on behalf of our SGA and school community, we're here again today, as we have been consistently for the past several years, to testify for the well-being and safety of our students and staff.
I trust that everyone on the board here today shares our belief in the right of every child to receive a free, public, and safe education. Unfortunately, many persistent conditions within Wooten High School have fallen far below these standards. Our concern goes beyond mere aesthetics. It's about having a safe and equal learning environment for all.
It takes just one visit to Wooten, one look at our facilities, and one conversation with a Wooten student to see the impact of the many concerning issues of our building. Bathrooms with leaking faucets, filthy ceiling panels, evident mold in lower-level classrooms, and an auditorium with seats so worn they can no longer be used. Recently, while planning our upcoming winter pep rally, the lack of an adequate auditorium has forced us to either interrupt class time, take away from students much-needed wellness periods, or force the entire student body outside in freezing temperatures just because half of our auditorium seats are unusable for the event. As the student government, we are tasked with planning events for the student body, and we're severely limited with our facilities in comparison to other schools in the county that can plan for hundreds of students in their auditoriums.
However, the challenge isn't solely about renovating our school to make it modern. Renovating our school is about making students feel safe. It's about creating a space to learn, and most importantly, it's about ensuring that individuals with disabilities have the same freedom of access to Wooten as any other student. According to the Department of Justice's guidelines on the American with Disabilities Act, a civil rights law that has been in effect for nearly 3 decades, individuals with disabilities should have the same freedom of access as anyone else.
In 2018, EMG project architects and engineers evaluated the accessibility of Wooten and nearly every other school in MCPS. The findings for Wooten were shockingly dangerous. Unsafe passenger loading zones and inaccessible parking, ramps that are too narrow for an average wheelchair to even turn, and emergency exits without due consideration for individuals with disabilities.
A Wooten student was using the restroom while the ceiling above the neighboring stall caved in and collapsed. The fear of what happened was paralyzing. An old pipe that had been leaking onto the ceiling for an unknown amount of time. And this day, it got so soaked that the ceiling folded like paper, leaving a gaping hole in the ceiling of the boys' bathroom. As the next few weeks went on, every time I and other students used that restroom, we had to see mangled ceiling bits barely hanging onto the rim of the gaping hole. This is very disheartening for many students who feel like the restroom is a place to relax from the stressful nature of school, even for a few minutes between classes. Due to repeated fiscal constraints, the renovation of all Wooten facilities have been delayed again and again. This is completely unacceptable. If the student who witnessed the ceiling being caved in was one stall over, they could have been seriously injured from debris falling on them.
One known and arguably most important value of our county is equality. However, the Wooten community feels unfairly left behind as we spend the majority of our days in one of the only 2 schools in MCPS built before 1970 that hasn't been majorly renovated. While we were promised action and school visits within the following weeks after the last time Wooten testified in September, we haven't seen any follow-through. We appreciate and recognize your efforts. However, again, emphasizing the testimony that I gave, I urge you to utilize the abundance of student resources in the county to increase transparency in your actions and provide our community with the hope of change. As you can clearly see, the Wooten community is here today, ready to share our experiences and work with you.
Board members and Dr. McKnight, I encourage you to look around the room. The students, the parents, and the staff present here today are not advocating for themselves. None of the Wooten students here today will directly benefit from the changes and renovations we are requesting. They're advocating for the student who can't attend a football game with their peers due to the inaccessible stadium. They're standing up for the student who can't participate in activities in our weight room because they can't access that part of the school. They're advocating for thousands of future Wooten Patriots.
Thank you for your time and consideration, and we look forward to seeing you in our building in the near future.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Debbie Orsak. Please come forward.
And I'm a Wooten alumni. I'm not here to testify for you guys, but I feel, and it was not new when I went there, but it was still relatively new. So I feel your pain. I'm sorry. Okay.
You're on.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Debbie Orsak, President of the Montgomery County Council of PTAs, and I'm here to share our community's perspective on the CIP. For us, this CIP embodies not a list of wants, but rather it is a list of desperate community needs. These needs, some of which we have asked for years, include funding for HVAC repairs, rebuilding outdated and unsafe classrooms, cafeterias and core spaces, new school facility planning and construction monies to keep pace with surging enrollments in key high population growth areas of the county, and boundary studies that engage communities as well as examine the most effective use of secondary facilities in light of enrollment growth and programmatic offerings. Most importantly, these CIP projects hold the potential for equity impact for our high-need schools and students. We are cautiously encouraged by the dedicated $144 million to repair and improve school HVAC systems and the $10 million added to take advantage of the Healthy Schools Fund. We make this request each year, and each year we return with the request because of the backlog. But what is the backlog and why is it still backlogged? We ask that HVAC repairs projects, as well as security improvements, no matter how small, are made public beyond the request for proposal and bid contract. Families and school staff deserve to know that critical infrastructure problems and security installations are being addressed. We believe that community trust is cultivated through transparency. We are grateful for new CIP projects as we acknowledge that the state and local funding environment is at best unpredictable and unstable. MCPS has recognized the extreme facilities constraints with addition project planning at Mill Creek Town Elementary School, as well as Blake and Paint Branch High Schools. We also extend our appreciation for the planning and construction funds finally allocated to Eastern Middle School. Same goes for Cold Spring, Damascus, Twin Brook, and Whetstone Elementary Schools, with planning funds and placeholder construction funds. These schools, all of them, have complicated and long-standing site and critical structure issues that impede some day-to-day school operations. So now the hard news, and we know it's not really news to you or to us. We've got Poolsville addition underway, Damascus High School entering the design phase, Woodward and Northwood projected delays, Wooten and Magruder in the mix, all important, all solving critical facility needs, in some cases reaching back a decade or more of such need. Let me repeat, these CIP projects are not wants. Regardless of the bleak fiscal climate for the CIP, they are needs. As you know, the DCC is extremely overcrowded with a total of 48 portables distributed across all 5 high schools, some of which have no more space for portables. Walter Johnson is similarly overcrowded with a current total of 15 portables. The situation only worsens in the forecast with a deficit of 2,400 seats across the DCC and WJ combined in 2026. That is more than the capacity of all but 4 of our 25 high schools. To this end, we ask the board to direct MCPS to prioritize the Northwood and Woodward projects. While Crown High School is also in the mix in this CIP, at present it has no boundaries and no constituency. Given these factors, we ask you to re-examine Crown as an immediate priority in light of the current and future needs of existing high schools and upcoming boundary studies for Woodward, Clarksburg, and Damascus. We are not asking you to table Crown. Instead, we ask that you give attention and resources to our school communities with the most pressing needs. Prioritize Woodward and Northwood funding first and refrain from reducing their planned capacity or functionality. We also note that the projected enrollment and space availability tables for Whitman and BCC do not include Woodward, even though both clusters are included in the Woodward boundary study. We request that those tables be updated to match the WJ and DCC tables. We will be learning soon about project options. We simply ask that you include options for Crown High School. These projects are nested in a fluid and precarious fiscal environment. We have so many related questions that require answers, such as what do we assume about financing beyond the 2-year SAG timeline? Where are these projects once state build to learn money is gone? With whom and how can we work collectively on a more permanent funding mechanism for our schools, at least at the county level? Is MCPS tracking the additional funds now required to implement the state-mandated blueprint for Maryland's future capital solutions? We have a finite amount of funds. MCPS needs to document the amount of funding that will be pulled from our regular CIP projects so that we can know if we need to ask the state to help fund the projects they are now mandating that MCPS implement. Our families are not privy to MCPS processes and decision-making. What may appear to be routine in MCPS's mind often is new information landing last minute in households across MCPS, if it even makes it there. This means communicating early and often about anticipated projects and decisions related to those projects. Information needs to be real-time and accessible to all, especially if we truly value equity and inclusion. We can and need to do better. We have a great start with our joint MCC-PTA-MCPS school construction work group. Thank you, Board Member Wolf. So let's keep the momentum and not lose sight of the good work we are doing together. MCC-PTA is ready to help MCPS and the board think through these issues and activate our membership to advocate for our schools. We're ready to help. We just need you to fully engage us. Thank you. Right at the buzzer.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Tiffany Neighbors and Stephanie Fitz. One more time. It was on already. There you go.
On. Greetings, everyone, President Silvestri and board members and Dr. McKnight. My name is Tiffany Neighbors, and I am a member of the MCC-PTA Curriculum Committee and one of 2 MCC-PTA cluster coordinators for Quince Orchard High School. Our collective concerns tonight align with MCPS's well-being and family engagement priority, and more specifically, the objective in the MCPS strategic plan that speaks to the desire to continue to provide and maintain safe and clean facilities that ensure accessibility and support the learning environment. Rachel Carson has made a CIP small request that will make a big impact on support for traffic flow and improving safety for students, drivers, and pedestrians. This request is to establish a designated walker path connecting Kent Oaks Way to the sidewalk surrounding the parking lot used by our school. At present, many of our students who walk to school from the direction traverse Kent Oaks Way that involves crossing the entry and exit points of the parking lot with heavy car volume during park drop-off and pickup times. The fast-paced and sometimes distracted nature of these vehicular movements poses a potential hazard to our elementary-age students, many of whom are still developing their situational awareness, especially during inclement weather. While we recognize the challenges in altering individual behaviors, the creation of a clearly marked path originating from Kent Oaks Way and joining the existing sidewalk along with the parking lot would support improvement in student safety and support traffic flow that is currently impacted by the existing volume. This CIP request would provide a safer route for our walkers, obviating the need to cross parking lot entrances, which pose a safety risk for both distracted drivers and elementary-age students. We appreciate your consideration of this request and the opportunity to preempt unintended injuries and pedestrian danger. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to speak to Quince Orchard High School in a desperate need for a new security vestibule, full remodel. There should be some images. If not, you can look at them later. From the photo, it'll be attached to your testimony. The security vestibule has no window, and so has no view of the outside other than provided on the security camera. The camera view shows as one picture on the computer display. It also displays multiple interior views. This limited and cluttered view on screen in no way is the same as having an actual view of the outside. From the next photo that I attached, the security worker has no view of where visitors go after they allowed access to the school. They cannot easily redirect a visitor heading off in the wrong direction, nor even know if the visitor didn't proceed to the main office. Additionally, since the vestibule is situated a large distance from the main office, there's another picture you can look at later, office staff do not have a visual foot traffic to and from the security vestibule. Finally, the vestibule itself is cramped, so if more than one visitor is entering at a time, as is common for a busy high school, there's literally not enough physical space to manage the influx of students and visitors. Please come look at it. It is a closet. There is no view. There is no visibility. Anyone can enter QO and go anywhere into the student hallways completely unmonitored after they leave the security vestibule. Please, someone come look at this. We are begging. Fields Road Elementary. I want to modify a little bit of my testimony about the playground to add there is plentiful unused space at Fields Road despite having portables. It's an enormous back lot. It is inconceivable there is not more playground equipment. There is enormous area where you could easily put them. It's even flat back there. Okay. So Fields Road is in desperate need of a playground remodel and safety fencing. There is no excuse for basketballs rolling into traffic. If you just put a fence up, you could increase the usable playground because the children wouldn't be risking death daily. I'm not exaggerating, it's awful. There is fighting, there is tackling. The kids don't all get to use the equipment. There's injuries on more than on a daily basis. The little girl spoke to getting a concussion. This is the norm for Fields Road. Please, someone come look at Fields Road Playground. These children are literally they're risking physical injury. You can read my testimony. I give a few more specifics as to it. It is unsafe. It is dense. It is a focused school. It has 49.5% farms rate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luander Uvery.
Good evening. My name is Leander Uvari, and I, along with Amy Ibakachi, are cluster coordinators representing the Damascus cluster. Amy and I are both proud parents of students of the class of 2024 and 2025, so we too will be graduating with them. And in that, we want to see that our past legacy and our present and our future legacy are seen. Tonight, we are here today to ask for the board's continued support for keeping the Damascus High School major capital project on schedule. This continues to be the most critical need in our cluster. Damascus High School was built in 1950, was last renovated over 40 years ago in 1978, and is now the oldest upper-level building in the MCPS school system. Damascus High School received red zone end-of-life span ratings for interior finishes, plumbings, electrical, equipment, and elevators in the 2018 MCPS School Facilities Assessment. In addition to our aging building, Damascus High School is located in a very isolated geographic area. Our students and family are not located in close proximity to many program offerings in the county, resulting in our students being shut out of numerous program opportunities due to transportation and travel times. This project provides an opportunity to ensure equality of program opportunities for Damascus families. Damascus is a small town, and Damascus High School represents much more than the physical space. It is the center of our community, providing community gathering space as well as educational opportunities. Additionally, this major capital project will provide much needed relief to the overcrowding at Clarksburg High School and the Clarksburg cluster. We urge MCPS to keep this very important project on track. Students, staff, and members of the extended Damascus High School community deserve a 21st century learning environment that is safe, supports student achievement, and builds our community. Damascus Elementary School was last built in 1934 with no significant improvements since 1980. It is the second oldest elementary school in Montgomery County. We are pleased to see that after many years of advocacy that the Damascus Elementary School is on the superintendent's recommended CIP for a major capital project. It is critical that this project moves forward. While we are greatly appreciative of the work that has been done previously at Damascus Elementary Schools, these fixes are temporary Band-Aids on a facility that is well beyond its lifespan. Additionally, the building has outgrown its capacity, with the school having multiple portable classrooms. New housing developments have been recently built and several are underway. We continue to experience significant population growth in our community. Unfortunately, our two oldest schools, Damascus Elementary School and Damascus High School, are both crumbling in total disrepair. With the growing enrollment projected to affect both schools, coupled with the age of the effective solution, we encourage you to walk through the hallways of Damascus Elementary School and observe for yourself the condition our students learn in on a daily basis. Many of our children that attend Damascus Elementary School have both parents and grandparents that attended the same school, and there has been very little, if any, improvements in the learning environment over these years. Our students deserve better than this. We ask for your support in prioritizing a major capital project at Damascus Elementary School. Woodfield Elementary School was built in 1962. As no significant improvements have been made since 1985, we were happy to see a FY 2023 appropriation, which requested funds to conduct feasibility studies for 9 elementary school students, including Woodfield, to determine the scope and cost of the future major capital projects. We urge the board to prioritize this field of study. Lastly, Rockwell Elementary School was cited for uneven and uncracked sidewalks across the buildings in the state. In the last state inspection. The concrete is original from 1992. We request that the Board of Education address the needs at Rockwell by providing new concrete sidewalks around the building. In closing, all of the schools in Damascus cluster are aging buildings, with our newest building built in 1992. Please keep us in your recommended CIP.
Thank you. I understand Gaithersburg cluster wasn't able to make it, so our next speaker is Kim Glassman.
Good evening, Dr. McKnight and members of the board. My name is Kim Glassman, and I, along with Kristen Erdheim and April Jones, represent the Magruder cluster. We appreciate your time as we give our testimony regarding capital projects for our cluster. Magruder Cluster is home to more than 5,300 students across 9 schools. We are grateful to have several facilities on the current capital projects list. While Magruder is scheduled for a major capital improvement in 2029, this has been delayed twice in the past. We ask that the board continue to maintain Magruder in good repair until that is complete and keep it on time for 2029. We have several other requests to keep our schools safe and accessible for all students. All of our schools that do not yet have gender-inclusive restrooms ask that one be added. We appreciate that these additions have been made to many of our elementary schools, but wish to emphasize the importance of inclusive restrooms for our secondary schools. All of our schools without sufficient security cameras ask that they be added without further delay. Our specific school-based requests are: Magruder High School is a 50-year-old building. We appreciate that we are scheduled for a major capital improvement by August of 2029, but each year this is at risk for being further delayed or removed from the CIP. We ask the board to maintain the current construction timeline. The specific areas in need of immediate repair include our exterior lights. There are not sufficient lights for the 2 main entrances to the school. It is not adequately lit and poses safety and security risks as our parking lot is too dark. While we appreciate floodlights were brought in for football games this season, there's a lot more happening at Magruder High School than our Friday night lights. Our stadium steps. The rock-filled path to the visitor stands is steep and hazardous. We request the addition of permanent set of steps with handrails to provide a safe point of entry. Security cameras. We have little coverage for our stadium field and the backside of the building. The upper soccer and softball and baseball fields and other locations are not adequately covered. We do not have a camera facing the front side of the building. Our auditorium lighting needs to be upgraded and replaced. While some were replaced this summer with LED lights, the LED lights only have a 3-month lifespan because of the outdated wiring and lighting system. Our hallway lockers are broken and falling apart. The restrooms need renovations to maintain proper repair. The locker rooms are in poor shape. The roof is leaking in several areas. The red caps on the bottom of the building facade columns are weathered and ineffective. And finally, our sprinkler system has not been properly maintained. You might have heard that last week we had a soccer ball bust a pipe, and black soot-filled water filled the hallway. Shady Grove Middle School. We are grateful that updates to the outdoor track are planned, but we request that these be completed in a timely manner. This was originally scheduled for summer 2023 and was not complete. It is now slated for summer 2024. The track has many broken areas, bumps, and divots that cause our students to trip and fall. We also continue to request an upgrade to the gym floor, and there are photos in the written testimony. That is now scheduled for 2026, though we have been told that the gym floor is damaged in several areas beyond repair. Redland Middle School again requests that the electrical and lighting systems for the stage remain on track to be replaced. The 3rd electrical lighting and dimmer rack is condemned. This system is original from 1971 and needs a total replacement. We appreciate that plans are underway. However, these plans have been in place for many years, and it is a fire hazard that we've been asked to have addressed before. We ask that it be maintained on schedule. Candlewood and Sequoia thank MCPS for the completion of previous projects and continue to request water bottle filling stations on the 2nd floors of their school. Flower Hill Elementary continues to request fencing between the portables outside of the school and the adjacent townhomes to maintain student safety. We also appreciate the plan to add security cameras, but that is slated for January 2025. We ask that be accelerated. Flower Hill is also in need of an additional portable classroom. All of our interior classrooms are in use. Flower Hill became a Title I school this year, and they are in need of additional space for student support and intervention. Mill Creek Town appreciates the addition to the CIP and asks that it remain on track for timely completion in 2028. Mill Creek Town houses the CES and the Learning Center programs and is currently over capacity. We also continue to request a replacement of the HVAC system, which is currently leaking throughout the building. Cashel Elementary School continues to request modifications to the pre-K and kindergarten restrooms to allow for electric and space for a changing table. We have a school and community-based program and need access to a changing table. Resnick appreciates the addition of security cameras, but also, like Flower Hill, is not slated till January 2025. We ask that that be accelerated. In addition, the repairs to our HVAC system have been unsuccessful. Thank you for your time. The Magruder Cluster looks forward to working with MCPS in building a stronger and safer future for our students.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Margaret Maurer. Please come forward.
I'm not Margaret, no. But she's over there. Good evening, President Carla Silvestri, members of the Board of Education, and Superintendent McKnight. I'm Eric Delgado, and I, along with my fellow cluster coordinators, Margaret and Sheila Bunch, are representing the students and families of the Whitman cluster, and we appreciate the time that you've taken tonight to hear us and everybody else out in our testimonies. We wanted to say thank you for allowing us to be part of the CIP process. I think it's really important that you hear the parents of the kids and students of all schools, including the Whitman cluster. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity here to testify on the capital budget and CIP this evening. The Whitman cluster is supportive of the superintendent's approach to the fiscal year 2025 recommended capital budget, which addresses many critical capacity, aging infrastructure needs, and that are affordable within the county council's fiscal limits. We recognize that construction costs and supply delays have forced MCPS to extend the completion dates of multiple construction projects, including the Northwood High School and reopening of Charles W. Woodward High School. However, we encourage MCPS to maintain the timeline for the Woodward boundary study according to the County Council adopted fiscal year 2024 capital budget, and not delay its commencement in order to align with planned construction and timeframe of the facility completion. Communication and transparency are key to community buy-in and ensuring that there's trust in this entire process. We urge that MCPS to disseminate information and send continuous updates regarding the Woodward boundary study to impacted clusters and stakeholders in a clear and timely manner. Moreover, it's imperative that community engagement specifically includes honest dialogue between MCPS and affected schools in order to ensure the success of the significance of this undertaking. We are thankful that the Whitman cluster has benefited from the funds that the county has allocated towards the additions at Whitman High School and Powell Middle School. We look forward to participating in that Woodward boundary study. Particularly, we are open to discuss capacity at Powell. Furthermore, we're excited to note that Whitman's Leadership Academy for Social Justice will be offered as an MCPS regional program starting in the school year 2024-2025. Whitman has the physical space and capacity and currently has the enrollment capacity to serve and welcome additional students to our school if need be. We strongly urge the board and MCPS to adopt and implement the fiscal year 2025 capital budget that is cognizant of immediately addressing the needs to keep the Woodward boundary study in its current timeline. We'd also like to take this opportunity to reiterate the transparency as well as clear and timely communication between MCPS and all the stakeholders, as it being one of the most critical factors in working together to rebuild and replenish our community. Respectfully, Eric Delgado, Margaret Maurer, and Sheila Bunch, Whitman Cluster Coordinators. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dorian Hoffman.
President Silvestri, Dr. McKnight, and members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight. My name is Dorian Hoffman, and along with Emily Beckman, I am a cluster coordinator representing the Walter Johnson cluster. We continue to be grateful for the board's support of the Woodward High School reopening, but we are concerned that the project is now being recommended for another one-year delay, resulting in continued acute overcrowding at WJ. As a reminder, the original approved timeline had Woodward opening as a new high school to relieve overcrowding in the WJ cluster and DCC for the 2022-23 school year, last year. We also ask that MCPS provide timely, accurate information to parents throughout the construction and boundary study process so that parents know what options they have for their kids and can weigh them with as much accurate and up-to-date information as possible. I have attached to the written testimony some school-specific requests, including some from WJ. The reality is, until Woodward reopens, WJ will be severely overcrowded, especially now with an additional year, and needs help. We have 3 primary requests concerning Woodward. First, it is essential that the superintendent's new schedule revision is the final revision. Our cluster has been advocating for additional capacity to relieve WJ's extreme overcrowding for more than 10 years. My daughter was in preschool when these discussions began, and she will be a senior when Woodward reopens. We know there are many moving parts, contracts, decisions, and different offices involved in a new school, but 12 years is long enough. Please don't push Woodward back further because of unforeseen circumstances. You have time to plan for those circumstances and make the necessary decisions, starting with having the contractor on site to begin the demolition of the Northwood building the day students and teachers leave Northwood in June 2024. Second, we strongly encourage MCPS's Office of Curriculum and Instructional Programs to make final decisions about the program that will be housed at Woodward and how many seats those students will fill. This is vital information for the boundary study commencing in 2024. Our understanding is that this can be decided immediately and has not yet happened. Finally, we ask the board to adopt an MCPS to stay on track with a boundary study timeline that does not delay the project further, allows for comprehensive community input, and allows for families in the DCC to know their full options well ahead of choice deadlines. Based on the boundary study scope recommendation issued by the board on March 28, 2023, this would involve releasing an RFP for the consultant to conduct the boundary study no later than May 2024. Please note that it means less than a year delay on the boundary study process at this point, since MCPS is already behind schedule. Last night, it was also noted that there will be many sizable projects and boundary studies happening in the next few years. This is true, and we need to make sure that each boundary study is completed with enough time for middle school students to know their options in high school. We know that the cost of major capital projects like Woodward are a strain on the CIP. However, they are also essential. Woodward is mentioned in the Rock Spring Master Plan, the Bethesda Master Plan, the Lightonsville Sector Plan, all 3 White Flint Sector Plans, and the Grosvenor-Strathmore Minor Master Plan Amendment as the capacity solution for high school overcrowding in Bethesda, Rockville, Silver Spring, Kensington, and everywhere in between. The Woodward project has been modified and delayed and will no longer serve the students and families that initially advocated for it more than 12 years ago. But it won't be too late for the WJ and DCC families with younger kids who are dependent on Woodward to ease overcrowding at area schools. We appreciate that the board has voted to reopen Woodward to solve overcrowding. Thank you. Now it's time to finish the job. Thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight.
Thank you. Kathy Stocker, please come forward. It's on.
Oh, and then I just turned it off. Good evening, dear Board President Silvestri, Board of Education members, Mr. Hull, and Superintendent McKnight. Thank you for the opportunity to testify at the CIP hearing. My name is Kathy Stocker, and I, along with Beth Van Gelder, serve as the acting cluster coordinators for the BCC cluster. I welcome the opportunity to represent the families of the nearly 7,400 kids currently enrolled over our 10 schools. On behalf of all BCC cluster PTSAs, we want to thank MCPS leadership and staff for their tireless efforts in support of our students and their families. The BCC cluster is grateful for past capital investment that has mitigated crowding in some of our schools. Part of our cluster, though, is still struggling to keep up with the residential building projects in downtown Bethesda and that growth will continue to particularly exacerbate crowding at Bethesda Elementary School. With projects nearing completion and new development being approved, our community anticipates that BE will continue to struggle to find space. The original core space at BE was designed for 384 kids, and we currently have 600 and counting students at BE. The recently implemented elementary school boundary changes did not reduce crowding at BE in the way that we had hoped it would, and there appears to be no plan to include elementary school boundaries within the scope of the planned Woodward boundary study. We were reassured to see that planning for a joint BCC-WJ elementary school is still in the CIP, but knowing how much our friends in the WJ cluster are growing, we anticipate that WJ could need all of that space in a new elementary school for themselves. I know I bring up Bethesda Elementary School every time I appear before you, but I feel that I must keep reminding everyone that all of those cranes in downtown Bethesda mean more kids at BE. BE is truly a rolling admission school, and new students matriculate every week. We understand that budget constraints during the pandemic forced the cancellation of that planned addition at BE, but we urge you to consider a timetable for putting that addition back on the table. We included a number of issues in our summer cluster CIP comments, but I want to focus this evening on a few requests that impact accessibility and security. We have two accessibility concerns in our cluster. Silver Creek Middle School requests a small renovation to an existing second-floor bathroom in order to make that bathroom gender inclusive. A few easy changes would enable the bathroom to be converted into a gender-inclusive bathroom. BCC High School requests an accessibility solution for the approach to its counseling office. The entrance to the main counseling suite has steps but no ramp. In order to access counseling support, a student with accessibility challenges must coordinate with a staff member and does not have equitable and readily available access to counseling right now. In the category of security concerns, Chevy Chase Elementary has a non-functional vestibule that allows any student, child, or adult to climb over it and move throughout the school quickly. We understand that the historic nature of this beautiful building makes renovations difficult, but this has been a long-standing request, and we hope that our smart friends at facilities can figure out the right configuration and plan to improve safety and security there. Somerset also has a problematic main entrance in that it does not currently have a complete double entry structure. So once a visitor is buzzed into the main door, he or she does not enter the office, but instead has access to the entire school. I am sure that I share everyone's frustration that we live in a world where we have to think about hardening our security measures in elementary schools, but for obvious reasons, these upgrades are a priority for our families, faculty, and administrators. Finally, I want to conclude by addressing the Woodward boundary study. Community meetings are scheduled to begin in 2024, and we urge the Board of Education and MCPS to implement and abide by a transparent process that truly takes into account community and constituent feedback. Many constituents in our cluster have lost faith in this process and feel that these meetings are just for show and the decisions are foregone conclusions. This is a real opportunity to change that narrative and reassure community members that their voices matter. We look forward to actively partnering with you in this effort. Thank you all for this opportunity to speak today, and thank you all for your service to our community.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Lee. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Adam Lee. I'm the class coordinator for Montgomery Blair cluster for 4 consecutive years. I apologize that I did not submit a written document in advance, so let me submit that later tonight or tomorrow morning. We want to thank to the Board of Education members and the Superintendent Dr. McKnight and the MCPS teams for constructing such capital budgets that keep the critical plans budget and plans on schedule. For Montgomery Blair High School, thank you all for allocating additional counselors and social worker and the wellness staff to the Blair already. With more than 3,200 students, these mental health professionals are very needed for our students during this challenging time. However, we are bringing up your attention for a pressing issue regarding to the lack of office space for our mental health counselors to serve for the school students. We believe it is essential to address this matter to provide best possible mental health support for our students in a private setting. Currently, our mental health counselors are faced to share the cramped and limited office space. with the hampers of their ability to provide the necessary support to our students individually. For lack of privacy and confident environment, it gradually impacts the effectiveness for the student Olympics. Given the multiple bounce rates last month, counseling is much needed than before. So the replies from the cluster comments we sent in from July, the replies we received back in September, the Montgomery Blair is labeled as well evaluated. We urge the board to prioritize and allocate the resources to resolve this issue as soon as possible. This investment not only enhances the overall well-being for our students, but also demonstrates our commitment to our mental health needs. Our students are the future of our community, and it is our responsibility to provide them necessary support in academic, emotional, and social setting. For Eastern Middle School, we are excited to see Eastern Middle School is one of the 5 new major capital projects which is on the schedule. And our community has consistently expressed a concern on other parts for the significant needs to the environment setting to provide improved space for the ADA compliance facility for both floors for the Eastern. Their rep will testify later today in the individual testimony. For Montgomery North Elementary School, we request the inclusive bathroom to be improved on the first floor and to be complete scheduled in summer 2024. For Piney Branch Elementary School, we hope the major capital project that currently being on hold can be put back as soon as possible. In closing, on behalf of the Montgomery Blair cluster, we thank you all very much for your consideration for our recommendation. Moreover, we appreciate the construction at Northwood and Woodward to alleviate overcrowding problem in our community, in our cluster, and the surrounding cluster. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Narissa Johnson.
Good evening, Ms. Silvestre, members of the board, and Dr. McKnight. My name is Narissa Johnson, and I'm the cluster coordinator for the Wooten area. My testimony today will touch on about 4 issues and concerns. Number 1, overcrowding concerns and security needs within the Wooten cluster. Today I'm going to use 2 schools as an example. First is Sergeant Shriver Elementary School. Officially, the school is over capacity by 88 students, which may not seem like a very large number. However, with affordable housing plans expected to bring 200 units to the area in the near future, and the continuous stream of new international arrivals to our area, what is the plan for all these children? The community urgently needs MCPS's support and a plan to accommodate these additional students in the future. At Wooten High School, meanwhile, our building's capacity is 2,237 students, and our enrollment as of yesterday is 2,718. That puts us 481 students over capacity. By the end of the month, that number could very easily reach 500, maybe 520, because we also receive a continuous stream of new arrivals. We are happy to receive these students, and the school is able to function at current enrollment, but we still need extra help. For example, there's an urgent need for 1 to 2 additional security cameras in the areas around the softball field and tennis courts. These are unsupervised dead zones for our admin and security teams. Please help our staff as they work to keep our students safe throughout the school day and during after-school activities as well. Second, there's actually a quick and practical solution to our overcrowding at Wooten that has yet to be utilized. We have an unfinished shell located within the Thomas Edison building. Our community strongly urges MCPSs to finish that shell so that both Wooten and Edison can use that space to accommodate our growing population. Secondly, the community at Sergeant Shriver is extremely grateful for both the board and MCPS's help with fixing previous drainage issues. However, there is still one outstanding issue near the front entrance, and I believe facilities is working with the school on that, so I look forward to, to that being resolved. My third area of concern is technology needs at Wooten High School. Wooten There's an urgent need for many of our computers to be upgraded. Presently, all but one of 6 labs are using 7-year-old Dell Optiplex 3020 desktops. All admin and department office laptops are also the 3020s. Meanwhile, it's unclear when the 12-year-old Macs in the digital music lab will be upgraded. In summary, many of our computers are so old that we are now dealing with technology performance issues. Antiquated technology is incompatible with a technology-dependent school like Wooten, because we do house the biomedical and the engineering magnet and academy. So there is a great need for current technology. And Wooten students, like students throughout MCPS, deserve the best. Point number 4, climate adaptation in school design. Along with my peers in the DCC, I strongly urge MCPS to take necessary steps to help both existing and planned infrastructure cope with climate change. Today's rainstorm in 2023 is not the same as a rainstorm from 1993. They're more intense and often result in flooding and other significant damage. The effects of the sun are also much harsher today. How is this affecting us? At the elementary school level, shade structures and trees are urgently needed for our playground. Schools such as Wheaton Woods and Brookhaven have play equipment that is located in the direct sun next to a building often, with no shade at all, not even from a tree. Parents and PTA leaders are reporting that during the warmer weather months, children find the equipment so hot that they are reluctant to use it. At Wheaton, meanwhile, the heat wave we experienced during the first week of September resulted in our students not being allowed to use our turf because the turf became dangerously hot to the touch. Our students regularly use that space, as many as 1,000 each day. Imagine the impact during that week on staff and students not being allowed to go outside. Finally, I'd like to touch on the importance of quality control during the construction phase. With Woodward and Northwood in mind, I would like to remind MCPS to make sure that quality is a priority for all schools during the construction phase. Our students deserve to learn in high-quality facilities. Make sure that our buildings are not burdened with drainage, flooding, electrical, and other problems after the new buildings are completed. And please do not delay the Wooten and Damascus projects. Their students deserve the best too. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Oriel Saw and Allison Flepson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Carolyn Ross. I'm here on behalf of all 3 of us, Oriel and Allison. We want to thank you for the opportunity to testify tonight on behalf of Einstein Cluster. I want to thank also everybody else who's testified here tonight. So much smarter than me, so much going on here. But I want to share something with all of you. In a year I shall not divulge, my high school closed because there was not enough enrollment, and MCPS was an MCPS school. And I went to a different school. Guess which schools those were? Woodward High School and Walter Johnson High School. So I find it very ironic that we're all here talking to you all about this, and I appreciate all of my co-advocate parents talking about the importance of easing overcrowding, because it plagues all of us now, and I don't think it's ever going to be a situation where we're closing schools again. And I do join everyone in their comments about that, and that we need to keep that project on track. And we also join in the comments about keeping communication transparent, and we hope that through this advocacy, I think I heard everybody pretty much mention it tonight, that will be made a priority in the future. Moving on here, I've had to rearrange a lot of testimony here. We support the reimagining of the Crown High School expenditure timeline, where no students are yet even assigned, in order to accomplish this and keep Woodward and Northwood on track as scheduled, because we understand there may be options. And let's see, as we heard from the Wooten students today, beautiful job. MCPS buildings require more consistent assessment and attention to avoid urgent problems, which place student and staff safety at risk, and utterly fail to adequately support learning and extracurricular engagement. I think I heard auditorium lighting more than once here tonight. Same for us. Members of the board, our cluster is not immune. Even though our high school was built in 1962, it was renovated over 25 years ago, not 50 years ago, we experienced many of the same problems as a result of outdated systems. And I think some quality issues, which was just mentioned by our last cluster coordinator. Let's see, only one out of our 7 feeder schools are renovated or had a capital project within the last 20 years. Flora Singer was new in 2012, 11 years ago now. They're already over capacity. Woodland Elementary School was already over 75 years old when in 2019 an appropriation was made. And despite this board stepping in to accelerate a funding delay by the County Council, Woodland still awaits opening of its new building in January 2024. Let's cross our fingers. Those students ride a bus an average of 1 hour each morning to their holding school. And I would say we're not here to compare and contrast, except I will say that in my experience is on one side of the Beltway versus the other, I do see what some of our students recognized tonight from Wooten, that in other schools, and I will mention another cluster on the other side of the Beltway, 7 out of 9 school buildings were rehabbed in the last less than 25 years, and nobody's had to sit on a bus as long as our Woodland students did. So equity is still an issue, and we urge you to look at that. Let's see, what else am I missing here? I would say that students and staff in those buildings on the other side of the Beltway do enjoy more modern amenities, including improved water stations and bathrooms. I have spent time in those buildings, I've seen them, and I wholeheartedly support the Wooten students' suggestion that these have to be reviewed quarterly as part of PLAR or BMI. Relocatables are plaguing our entire cluster. At Einstein last year, 2 out of 4 tennis courts were under threat by placement of yet another one over the objection of over 500 signatories to a petition initiated by members of the team. Thankfully, they only lost 1 tennis court, but the continued use of trailers as classrooms is not sustainable and threatens equitable student recreation space countywide, as the CIP itself documents. Teachers and students report unsafe conditions. Trailers lack healthy air circulation or easy access to restrooms and water. Overcrowding must be addressed. And I didn't even get a chance to get to all that's in here, but thank you for hearing us this evening.
Thank you. Claire Bullock, you can come forward.
Hi, my name's Claire Bullock. This is the first time I've done this, so it won't be the last. I have 2 kids at Glen Allen Elementary School, and I'm serving as one of the cluster coordinators along with Janelle Jackson for the Kennedy cluster and the Down County Consortium. Thank you for listening tonight for all the needs of the schools that are in MCPS, especially around the necessity of around safety and environmental needs. Kennedy High School is very grateful for our new addition, the power washing of the school, the upcoming painting to be done this summer. But Kennedy continues to wait on its completion of the parking structure / tennis court. This structure, there's a picture of it in my submitted testimony, and it was taken during the day, but it is waiting to be completed. It was supposed to be completed last year, and it's sitting empty. The garage is very dark at night, and drivers, according to neighbors and school people have told me, that are doing a lot of donuts in it because there's not a gate. We're asking for a security gate to be put in because this is supposed to be a staff lot that can be used with a key fob of some kind when it's completed, just to ensure more safety and that there's also more lighting. It's very, very dark. The newer areas of Kennedy have amazing lighting, the new addition. However, the older sections of the school still need lighting updates. Again, echoing other people's issues around their auditorium, the lighting, the floor is abysmal and would benefit from just being painted over with black paint to cover over the debris. We are so grateful. Every middle school student that I've talked to that attends Odessa Shannon is really proud to be there. They love the new structure, the new building. It's beautiful. I know that Ajima Ndyendu gave testimony about their needs earlier, but I want to echo the needs around more lighting in the front part of the school so that there is more lighting. Sorry, my alarm went off. And that there is a security camera placement in the back of the school. These simple measures will keep things going for the school and to keep that quality of that school up, along with its safety of its students and staff. Glen Allen Elementary School has repeatedly requested outdoor structures and eating area that could be used for learning. There is a wonderful outdoor learning space. There's a photograph of it. It's tiered in the back that is not used because there is no shade. There's a large tree in the back as well, as you will see in the pictures, that is dying and will probably need to be removed in the next few years. However, that space, if it was used with covering, would be excellent learning space. It's flat, and it would also be a wonderful space for people to have class outside. Glen Allen continues to struggle with traffic management and support. The school administration and the PTA successfully advocated for the county and state for a traffic light at the intersection of Hurek and Randolph Road. However, managing the traffic once on campus is still problematic and a safety hazard. Our school leadership has exhausted all options in terms of signage, volunteers, and reaching out to police for assistance. The police have said they can't do anything regularly other than to provide traffic complaint, phone number, and the community members and parents. As a result, we are asking for the parking lot and entrance redesigned to respond to the traffic and safety needs at Glen Allen. Belpre, Strathmore, and continue to struggle with finding space as community needs, as their community school needs. And then lastly, just to reiterate the importance of open communication and transparent communication. The issues around Northwood is one of those situations where 8th graders should be able to have the knowledge about this. I don't understand with this as not being able to be communicated quicker and easier. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Bridget Howe. It's on.
It is on. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Bridget Howe, and today I'm speaking in my capacity as Acting Cluster Coordinator for the Northwood Cluster. As you can imagine, the last week has been pretty busy for us in the Northwood Cluster after reading the new CIP. We were disappointed, but we understand the recommended delay to opening the new Northwood due to rising construction costs and the initial tight timeline. I do want to specifically say thank you to Seth and Adrian for reaching out to the community and answering our many questions. We also really appreciate the flexibility and openness that Jeannie Franklin demonstrated in communicating the changes to the 2,500 DCC 8th graders, whose choices may be affected by the delayed timeline. While it went out later than we would have hoped, it went out, and that's what matters. And of course, Dr. Garrick's leadership has been essential for the Northwood community. That said, we have a few requests related to Northwood's and Woodward's construction. One, while we understand stretching the project from 2 to 3 years is unavoidable, you absolutely must ensure that it's started and sticks to that timeline. You're all aware of the conditions at Northwood, the overcrowding, the inevitable physical decline that happens to a building that hasn't been renovated in 50 plus years. As an aside, I think I've mentioned my dad before, who graduated from Northwood in the 1960s. We were looking at his 1961 Northwood yearbook the other day, and I pointed out some of the pictures and said, it still looks like that. Our kids still go to school in those classrooms, and he was shocked. I told him about the advocacy that I've done, and he is now really looking forward to seeing the new building open and for his grandson to graduate from Northwood in 2029 from the new building. Number 2, please do your best to ensure that Phase 2 construction at Woodward has as minimal an effect on learning and activities for Northwood students as possible. Not only do we hope to avoid the distractions and potential health issues related to active construction, but we hope that timing and priorities can be worked out to ensure access to a full auditorium and athletic facilities as soon as possible, especially because of Northwood's Performing Arts Academy. We are grateful that the black box performance spaces should be ready for them this fall. To the end of all of these objectives, we request that the board require MCPS to prioritize funding for construction at Northwood and Woodward to ensure that these projects stay on track. Number 3, we would like to thank Brenda Wolf and MCPS for establishing the joint MCPS-MCC PTA school construction work group to address communication issues and safer school construction, including the creation of skits, school construction impact teams at schools slated for ongoing construction. We do ask, number 4, that you collaborate with Northwood and the DCC community by creating a skit with relevant stakeholders as soon as possible. This will be most important in the first year as Northwood students are learning through active construction on the Woodward campus. However, we also request that the skit include a holding school community committee to address the inevitable issues related to engagement, participation, and access for the 3 years that Northwood, or North Woodward, as I've been calling it, is located at Woodward. This is the first time in almost 20 years that an entire high school has been moved to a holding school, and we know there's going to be challenges. Our Northwood stakeholders want to work in partnership with you to eliminate as many possible barriers for family engagement as we can. Many of these requests will be operational. I'll come back in January. That said, we know that transportation is a pressing operational issue and the clock is ticking for the coming school year. Ensuring funding for the appropriate solutions to the challenges of distance between Northwood and Woodward, the relative lack of transit options near Woodward, and a Northwood community with many families lacking cars is essential. So therefore, between now and January, we request that work begin for MCPS transportation to meet with stakeholders in the county DOT to enhance transportation options for access to Northwood at Woodward. Please ensure that these conversations aren't just about school buses, but also include transit options which may better serve families and students. Moving on to other Northwood cluster priorities, we appreciate that the Sims construction is underway. While we believe that the project is underfunded and should have a larger scope, it is long past time to move this forward. Several issues identified to MCPS that are not being addressed include disproportionately high ADA noncompliance, roof leaks, and unsafe passage through staircase 7. MCPS's response to date continues to put off responding to many of the concerns as under review with no real-time commitment to address. We understand that a skit is in the process of being created at Sims, and we hope that the skit can also be used to continue a discussion with MCPS to address these additional underfunded issues. And finally, we also support all of the other DCC projects happening as quickly as they can. We are one big cluster, and we want to make sure that we are looking out for each other. And also, we support Wooten, Damascus, and Magruder, and thank their students for coming out. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin Lewis, please come forward. One more time.
It's on now? Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Ben Lewis, Paint Branch Cluster Coordinator, along with Nicholas Bassey. I'm the parent of 2 elementary school students at Burtonsville Elementary. This testimony was crafted in consultation with Burtonsville, Cloverly, Fairland, Galway, Greencastle, and William Tyler Page Elementary Schools, Benjamin Banneker and Briggs Cheney Middle Schools, and Paint Branch High School. Our cluster has one overarching priority for this CIP cycle: ensuring student, staff, community safety in and around our schools. All of the schools in the cluster have some level of security concerns. There's a need for more security camera coverage at key locations inside and around the perimeter of school buildings. An example of this issue is at Paint Branch High School, where there's an adjacent woods and a tunnel that goes underneath Route 29 that are frequented by students. The lack of adequate coverage hinders the staff's ability to effectively monitor and mitigate security concerns. The lack of camera coverage is compounded by inadequate quantities of two-way radios and radio and cell coverage in dead spots within the buildings in and around the school campuses. This is a common complaint of majority of the schools that I mentioned. These communication deficiencies leave our schools vulnerable during emergency and security events. The need for lighting in parking lots, activity fields, and campus common areas continues to be a concern, especially at Paint Branch. We've mentioned that a few years. For the lighting issues, Paint Branch, for instance, is heavily used by the community, so additional lighting, especially at night, would help. We are grateful for the renovation at Page Elementary being completed. We ask that the planned addition at Greencastle Elementary continue to be funded for the completion date of August 2025. We also ask that the CIP be amended to include a completion date for the Burtonsville Elementary School to be August 2026. Currently is on books for 2027, but to move it to 2026 would actually match the design schedule that's currently ongoing. Other infrastructure needs include HVAC repairs at Galway Elementary, especially in the gymnasium, and building renovations or modernizations at Cloverly Elementary, which was built in 1961 with its last major renovation in 1989. Last, but certainly not least, we ask you not to forget about the dire facility challenges at Banneker Middle School. The school was built in 1974 and has not had a major renovation since. The building needs are significant. Hot water shortage, building boilers out of service, sewage backups, leaky roofs, buckling walls, access control doors not being operable. The list goes on and on. The lack of inclusion of any of the funding for Banneker in the CIP is, quite frankly, startling. I do know that there's going to be a facility assessment, but that facility assessment won't be ready. The result of it won't be done in time to advocate, and so it'll leave us again another CIP cycle with nothing being done for that school. I'll speak specifically that the condition of the school really affects the community. The community feels like the school has been left behind by the county. MCPS states its vision as we inspire learning by providing the greatest public education to each and every student. We respectfully request that this vision statement be considered when addressing the funding of infrastructure needs of the Paint Branch cluster. Montgomery County has a long history of prioritizing its public education system, which I am a proud byproduct of. We ask that this prioritization be affirmed by investing in our schools, which house our most precious resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lauren Berkovitz via video. Please play the video.
Hello, I am Lauren Berkowitz, one of the Winston Churchill Cluster Coordinators. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I will be providing an update for the CIP for the Winston Churchill Cluster. Our cluster schools continue to need improved measures to ensure safety and security of students. Safety and security are our highest priorities, and without either, students cannot learn and thrive. At Wayside Elementary School, the school community-based program and preschool education program playground poses dangers to students in SCB and PEP. We are requesting modifications to become accessible to all students. I will detail some of the concerns about this playground below. First, wood chips, which currently surround the playground, need to be replaced with a stable rubber surface to support wheelchairs, gait trainers, and walker accessibility and stability. Students have fallen or have been prohibited from accessing the play structure due to the wood chips surrounding the playground and are therefore forced to spend their outdoor time walking around on hard cement. Second, the Wayside SCB and PEP playground ramp has a 2 or 3 inch lip that is not accessible to students who utilize wheelchairs, gait trainers, and walkers, or who have gross motor challenges. MCPS staff have had to physically lift these students to help them safely access the ramp. Third, the wayside play structure for SCB and PEP is composed of various climbing components like stairs, which are not accessible to students who utilize wheelchairs, gait trainers, and walkers. Students are not able to access many of the manipulatives because they are prohibited by the climbing components. Once a student has traveled up the ramp, there is nowhere else for them to go. Finally, the wayside SCB and PEP playground provides no shade from the sun. The structure needs a canopy to provide shade, particularly to students who utilize wheelchairs, gait trainers, and walkers who are not able to independently access the playground and who will have to wait for a teacher or paraeducator to provide them with the necessary support. At Beverly Farms Elementary, the school needs an entrance system for the doors that lead directly to the playground. Currently, there is no such system, and the staff are forced to walk students to the side door near the parking lot, leaving the gated area of the playground to enter the building from recess for brain breaks or for learning experiences. It would be safer and more efficient for students to be able to enter from the doors directly adjacent to the playground. At Herbert Hoover Middle School, outdated security cameras need to be replaced and updated. The current security cameras make it inefficient and impractical for Hoover security and staff to patrol the full campus and ensure student safety. Replacing and updating the systems will lead to a more efficient system to promote and foster campus safety and security. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amy Fitzgibbons. Please come forward. Underneath the microphone. There you go.
Perfect, thanks. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. McKnight. My name is Amy Fitzgibbons, and I'm here in my capacity as a parent to an Eastern Middle School 7th grader. The Eastern Middle School community is grateful that the proposed CIP includes planning and construction funds for large-scale renovations of Eastern. Eastern, as you probably all know, was built in 1951, and its last major capital project dates back to 1976. The school website describes the physical aspects of the school as although our foundation is aging, our physical environment still represents the culture of our students, staff, and community. The teachers, principal, and staff do amazing things within the limitations of the facilities at Eastern. And I want to highlight for the board the diversity of the school and the impact that the building's condition has on the community. We're a culturally diverse, ethnically and economically diverse community. 26% of our students are emergent multilingual learners, and 56% of our students benefit from the FARMS program. We're home to a METS program and Linkages to Learning program, which is critical to help connect families to important social services. We're also home to the Humanities and Communications Magnet program, which draws students from a geographic area spanning half of Montgomery County. This past prior academic year, the very modest cafeteria hosted its first student production since the pandemic last year. The courtyard, which is a relatively small patch of grass with some concrete walkways, hosted Shakespeare in the spring. The Student Green Club has done its best to beautify our limited green space. And for many years now, the community has really done everything it can to make the best of a not a great situation. From my perspective as a parent, I believe that the conditions of the school directly affect learning in two ways. First, it is so hard for our students to focus on school if they're worried about whether or not they can visit a functioning bathroom. Or how do you even get from point A to point B when the hallways in the school are so narrow and congested that the kids are concerned about their safety moving from place to place? Second, the students at Eastern feel like they've been overlooked or forgotten about because the physical space has been neglected for so long. And so we're incredibly grateful that the superintendent has recommended moving forward with planning and construction funds for Eastern, and I hope that the students in our community are able to watch this as it progresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Lillian Rosen. Please play the video.
Hi, my name is Lillian Rosen. I'm a resident of Tacoma Park, Maryland. I'm an alum of the Blair School Cluster, including Tacoma Park Elementary School, Piney Branch Elementary School, and Tacoma Park Middle School. And I have 2 children who will be attending the same school starting next year. And I am greatly concerned about the lack of plan for overcrowding in this cluster, as well as the lack of plan for improving Piney Branch Elementary School, which has been in disrepair since I attended the school many years ago. And I would really look forward to the school board's response and clearer planning of what will be done for that school and what will be done to make sure that the kids there are receiving the kind of space that all kids deserve to learn in and that all teachers and other staff members deserve to work in.
Thank you. All right, now we will turn to board comments and questions. And please turn your light on if you have a comment. Mrs. Evans.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Adams, we heard from several clusters, the Quince Orchard cluster, the Magruder cluster, Wheaton cluster, Kennedy cluster, and the Churchill cluster in regards to security cameras. Can you talk, and then also in the Quince Orchard cluster, security vegetables, can you talk a little bit about if we've had a plan in place to gradually do our schools and what that looks like around security cameras and then the security vegetable?
Sure, absolutely. So our security initiative really started probably back in 2016, and it started with security vestibules. Historically, we had cameras in many of our secondary schools. Post COVID, we definitely revisited and started to add more cameras in our elementary schools, and that's what we're continuing to work on from that perspective. But where we are from a vestibule standpoint, we have vestibules that are in all or in construction at all of our schools. We're now revisiting some that maybe aren't as operationally efficient as they could be. And then a whole slew of other security infrastructure elements that we're going to continue to roll out. But the camera piece, we have prioritized adding cameras to schools that have not had or do not have cameras, and then we're rolling back and adding cameras to really key areas. So our security team has done a fantastic job of doing assessments and really prioritizing certain areas of schools, and that's the work that continues. So as part of this recommendation, you will see more money in the security PDF, and that security PDF will address everything from cameras to vestibules to other major infrastructure that we're either piloting or reinforcing across the district.
Okay. Great. I know you talked about that during the work session, and that question may have been answered yesterday. Not everybody probably tunes into all of our meetings, but I did want our community to hear that and to know that we've heard you come before us to give testimony around that repeatedly, and that is a priority of the board. And then just so my last question is around the parking structure at Kennedy High School. Can you talk a bit about that? Because I do know that something is going on and we've had that discussion. So can we publicly just share with people where we're at around the parking structure?
Sure. So it is an elevated tennis deck. So this one is not a parking structure per se, but it's the second elevated tennis deck to really add additional parking. What we encountered in all tennis courts, what we encountered was there are minimal environmental conditions, really temperatures that need to be in a constant state for at least, I believe it's 10 to 14 days. We missed that mark in the fall, and we decided to defer to the spring, summer, and so that we have a surface that's going to be it's going to last a long period of time versus rush it and possibly impact that playing surface. So that work is we're going to come back in the spring once those climate conditions are met. But in terms of the lighting and the gating, that is something that we've heard and we're looking at. We're working with a security team just around what makes sense from a lighting. Again, gates, if there's a need for a gate. I think one thing I just point out, like gates are sort of a double-edged piece, right? So, locking, possibly having people inside versus, keeping people out. That's just part of the overall security assessment that we're doing. Security cameras in that space. I think you've heard us say over and over again, we're not necessarily fully on board with structured parking or elevated decks because of some of these challenges, but as our sites constrain and as that demand for parking exists, we are heading in this direction, and I think every project we're learning a bit more and getting a bit better. So BCC was the first elevated deck, Kennedy is the second, and we applied a lot of things we learned from BCC to Kennedy, and unfortunately we did not want to rush the tennis surface this fall, but that is something that we're obviously going to come back and do once we meet those conditions this spring.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Modrowski?
Yep, thank you. So I too want to just kind of say thank you to everybody again for coming out tonight. I have a couple of things that I have to say. So I've been on the board since 2012, and things like security cameras and stuff like that, and lighting, adequate lighting in areas are things that we've been talking about since then. And for some reason, I guess I had thought that, I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, 2 years ago or something, we kind of put together a plan to have completed all of the security camera aspects, making sure that, there was adequate and safe cameras at all of our schools. And I thought we had set separate monies aside for that. Can you just fill me in on, because it's not just that, but like I thought we also did the same thing for water filling stations, water bottle filling stations. There was a whole thing with the county council and on our board and a resolution to make sure we had water bottle filling stations at each of our schools in appropriate areas, including upstairs, and the lighting. So just curious, where is that? And as a follow-up, maybe do I need to know how much money it would cost? Because years ago, I had gotten an estimate on how much it would cost to have security cameras in all of the necessary areas at each of our schools. That was years ago.
Well, and so that's a great question. I think similar to sort of water bottle filling stations. So there was a request to put filling stations in. What we said was we could afford to put 2 in at every school, which we've done. And over time, we continue to add more when drinking fountains, go out of service. We'll add a water bottle filling station. But what you're hearing is a demand for more and more. And I would also say the same for security. So when we go in and we put cameras in, there's sort of a base level of security surveillance. Over time, there's been an evaluation, additional need, additional request. Pretty much, many of our schools that we go into, they'll say, well, we have quite a few cameras, but we have this one blind spot. Can we add another camera? So what you're hearing is not that we don't have some of these functions. It's how do we continue to build upon it and further expand what we already have. So I don't want you to think that we don't have these security measures, we don't have filling stations. It's about expanding what's there and making our schools better and safer each step of the way. But the security cameras were funded through ESSER funding partially. We've also supplemented through the CIP, and you're going to continue to see additional funds recommended by the superintendent in the areas of security, in the areas of water quality around water bottle filling stations. We've found that this is obviously a continued need, and we're going to continue to prioritize it from a CIP request standpoint.
Lighting as well. And I don't want you to misunderstand. I know we do work really hard to make sure we've got adequate security and things like that. It's just that there's been an uptick in a lot of incidences and different, across the county, across the country. And so I'm curious as to, do principals just put in requests if they say we have these blind spots? How are we, because I know that there's not enough people to go out, every month and evaluate every one of our schools and make sure that, but how are we kind of keeping track of what the growing needs are?
Yeah, so from a security standpoint, from a camera standpoint, our security teams have done a really fantastic job of doing assessments and knowing where we need to continue to prioritize. I'd also say, though, that there is a capacity piece to this, right? So MCPS personnel do not go out and install cameras. We hire contractors. Those contractors work with suppliers. That's a theme that you're hearing from the CIP is that it doesn't. These things just don't come overnight. So we prioritize, we plan out, and we project that over time. Campus lighting is something that has become a more of a concern. Again, I'd say probably post-COVID, really doing a security assessment of our campuses, particularly around our activities after hours. Lighting, again, is not something that we can just go in and just fix, right? There's a great deal of engineering that goes behind it. County law says we're not allowed to have lighting spill over property lines, so there's an engineering study that goes into every one of these. We're also layering that with our sustainability efforts. I mean, we have, we're going to add security for lighting, but at the same time, when we hear residents go by and say, I thought you were a sustainable organization, your lights are on all night, really just making sure we understand what it means, how it's functional, and it's well designed and well thought through. So this is work that's prioritized, but unfortunately it's not something that happens overnight, and it does take more time and effort and engineering and evaluation and procurement than sometimes that we'd like to say, but it is something that is a priority and is something that we're constantly working on. I would hope that we'll start to see more lighting around LED lighting. LED lighting on our campuses is certainly, it provides a lot more lumens. It brightens up the space, but that's contradicting the laws around our property lines, our skylight lighting elements. So we're balancing that and hopeful that we'll start to see major improvements. We talked about this yesterday from the energy savings performance contracting. We're not just looking at that from an auditorium, a gym, interior lighting. We're also looking at that from our campuses. So if we're able to leverage that energy savings, replacing old incandescents with new LEDs, but do it in an engineered way, we want to also try to take advantage of that opportunity as well. So I think there's a lot of information here, and
No, it's good,
certainly
though. People need to know it. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Provide some more feedback and updates around timelines, priorities, and where we're headed.
Okay, thank you. The last thing I'm going to throw in for right now is after the testimony last night, you and I had a conversation about the climate changing aspects and things, and the concerns with exposed playground areas I appreciated very much what you spoke to, and I just would like to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about how you're addressing that to the public.
Sure, and again, we're trying to overlay a lot of the initiatives, so the board policy around sustainability, we've heard a lot about, over the years, heat on playgrounds. There was initiatives at some time to do canopies. Canopies are very expensive, and they really don't provide as much coverage as you might hope for. So what we're really looking at is expanding our tree canopy, aligning that obviously with our sustainability goals, but also reducing some of that heat island that's associated with our playgrounds. So we're identifying key areas of those opportunities. You heard schools like Wheaton Woods. Wheaton Woods has an upper play. They have a lower play. The upper is on an area we can't plant trees, so we're looking at opportunities there. But on the lower, we certainly are exploring those opportunities to provide some shade coverings. But that is, again, we're trying to solve multiple problems with one solution, and that's a perfect example of that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. For our next work session, I just wanted to let you know I do want to ask about our boundary studies and a lot of the issues that have come up over the last couple nights, as well as our funding for Pilar, and whether or not we need to consider adding more or whatever.
Ms. Harris.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thanks to everybody for coming out. Just a couple quick things from me. One of the security things that I've been hearing about a lot, we heard some of it sprinkled in last night and tonight, particularly in elementary schools, is the need for more card access doors, especially ones that are adjacent to play space, so that if something happens and they need to get the kids in quickly, those doors lock and they can't get in. And so if we could, that's definitely a real safety issue that I think we need to be focusing on. I know it was an issue at Wood Acres and several other schools that we've heard about. So, and then Mr. Lewis's testimony. So I was at Banneker early in the school year. They've got a great acting principal, Mr. Adelakhan, and a really energetic, committed building services team. Can we just follow up with Mr. Adelakhan and make sure all of the issues that Mr. Lewis is talking about are actually in the system and that their building services team are getting the support that they need? And I know we've had these conversations where some of these issues in schools around facilities are just so multifaceted, and it can be, supply chain issues with parts, but just make sure that all the things are in the queue, that we're aware and we're doing everything we can to support them.
Absolutely will do.
Thank you. And then my last observation is just going back to what we heard about burning tree. And I talked about this with the Wooten cluster as well, but I'm looking at the 5 elementary schools in the Whitman cluster, and I'm really going to want to look at why we have 3 with significant seats available, more than 200. And that's consistent through the out years. And then we have one. Then we have Burning Tree, which is consistently over capacity by 80-ish seats. And so even just doing the math here, there's 300 plus available seats in the cluster, even moving forward in the out years. So I'm wanting to take a really intensive look at why that imbalance is there in that cluster when there are 3 schools with significant availability and 1 school that has significant overcapacity challenges.
Ms. Yang.
Yes, hi. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming tonight. And I think I heard one theme that has not been mentioned is how we can do better with communication and the importance of transparency and sticking to our boundary study schedules, because we have quite a number of them coming up. I want to make a call to our community, right? We have 22 capital projects in this CIP recommendation. And if you study carefully about the money allocated for this 6-year plan, you know that a significant chunk of money is at the out years. So we need you every step of this way of advocacy. We hear you loud and clear today, and we hope to see you when this is presented to County Council, to the county executive, so that we can get this 9 projects at high school level, 3 at the middle school level, and 10 at the elementary school level done, in addition to all the maintenance things that we need to do. So thank you again for coming out tonight. Yeah, deeply appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, I'm just going to have you go over the same thing that you covered at the beginning. What do you do with all the testimony that you hear, all the different projects? How do you handle them, and how do you communicate back to folks about what was done?
So yes, all the testimony we go through. If some of it's maintenance work, we make sure that work orders are in. If they're not, we create work orders. The feedback loop is typically through the school administration to let them know where we are, that these are concerns, and provide those updates. We'll also go through a list of the questions and comments and provide the board with a list of responses. Everything from timelines for when things will either be repaired, what's the progress or what's the status. And that's on the maintenance side, more of the sort of the operating side. On the capital side, certainly, there's questions about, project timelines, project scopes. We'll again go through each one of those. For those, we have the ability to update our website. We have the ability to work with, different liaisons of the individual schools. But again, I think overwhelmingly, we will reach out to the individual school administrators and make sure we really push this out, as well as post this information centrally.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf, do you have any comments or questions?
No, just a comment. Thank you. I wanted to thank everybody who came out tonight. We heard from almost every cluster that feels that they have a major project that just absolutely needs to get done. And we are always sympathetic to that. But as you know, we have a limited amount of funds, and we do end up having to prioritize. So we're listening carefully. Seth is taking notes. There are some things we will be able to do without question, but there are many things that with rising costs in the capital projects we already have going, I know they will not get done. And we hope that you will be able to go with us to the county council and seek support for those projects that we absolutely must get done this year. Thank you, and we look forward to your coming out.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Dr. McKnight, any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Silvestri. So what a great night to just hear personally from so many of our stakeholders. I'll start with our students. I mean, our students are often out and very active in our CIP process, but tonight, many of them took their lens of recommendations from a very personal lens, just talking about the different programs that they're in, the activities that they're involved in, and how those personal investments just bring value to their experiences, and then bringing that full picture within the CIP. So I just wanted to comment on that because that was something that really stood out about the testimony, and I appreciate that because even as we go out and we're waiting for some of these projects to be taken care of full scale, it does give us a really good picture of some of the high priority hotspots we can look at. And I know Seth Adams and team, have really just thought about, even for projects that are, built out on the out years, to be completely rebuilt or revamped or whatever it may be. What can we do right now to just take some of the relief off has also been a priority, and we've been working through that. Tonight we heard from Eastern and I think it was Amy gave her testimony, and I think it's an example of, yes, we need to do everything to keep our projects on time, and so that's why the board members' comments about the continued advocacy becomes really important. But I think about Eastern, and I was just there a couple of months ago, and we had been hearing often about some of the really hot spots, and I was happy to go over and see, like, the bathrooms have just been amazing in terms of how they have been renovated. So as we continue to hear these testimonies, we can think about what are the investments that we need to make long-term, and how funds are put aside for that. But what are some key hotspots that can't wait? And so that's why these testimonies are really key. And, we've heard from everyone, and I am just appreciative that, you have come out tonight and really shared your testimony and experiences with us, so that even if it's beyond some things that we have planned in capital, we can still work with our communities, and that's what we commit to doing. So I thank you to our community for coming out and being a part of the hearing tonight, and thank you so much to the staff for your commitment and comments and just continued support for what we need to do for our schools, students, staff, and community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight, and thank you all for staying till the end and for your wonderful advocacy. And Ms. Harris.
Yeah, for all of those who didn't turn in September when this was presented at the board table, this comprehensive maintenance plan, which is a product of the wholesale revision of our facilities division that's been done over the past couple of years. And as I flipped, I love this. This is my new second favorite MCPS publication. Is this available online? Because a lot of the questions people have that we are trying to answer around process are here, along with the schedule of projects. And so this is amazing.
It is online on our facilities website, and we plan to go over that Friday at the work session too. So
Called
that we
comprehensive maintenance plan.
Comprehensive maintenance plan.
We should make sure each of the cluster coordinators get one too.
Thank you. you again for your advocacy. It's deeply appreciated. Have a great night. We're adjourned.